Chapter 32-26. You're right, but the rumors aren't true. That move you used just now would have killed a Sky-class mid-stage peak, but a Sky-class late-stage peak wouldn't be affected at all, let alone me. The Great Elder said faintly. If you're really Lin Yi, then Purin Tianzuan and Dong Fang Yingxing didn't die in your hands. The one who killed them was someone else. That's right, it was someone else. I'm just puzzled, why would you suspect me? Lin Yi said as he walked towards Su Shihan and Cheng Yi. Both of them were heavily injured, but Cheng Yi's injuries were more severe. At this moment, Cheng Yi's breathing became heavy. She stuttered. Xiao Han. I'm sorry, Yi. Why do you say that? You saved me, why would you be sorry? Su Shihan was confused. But Lin Yi interrupted their conversation. He put his hand on Cheng Yi's pulse and said faintly, Shut up if you want to live. Ah? Cheng Yi froze. She didn't think that Lin Yi would save her first and not Su Shihan. It was possible that Lin Yi didn't see through her identity, but she was surprised that he saved her first and not Su Shihan. Xiao Han's injuries aren't as serious as yours. You're dying. Lin Yi didn't care what Cheng Yi was thinking. He activated the third stage of the Art of Dragon Mastery and started healing Cheng Yi. Lin Yi's shoulder injury wasn't healed yet, but it wouldn't affect anything, so Lin Yi started healing Cheng Yi first. Since I accepted this mission and came to Songshan City, I naturally know that there's a person called Lin Yi in Songshan City and Dahai City. This is his territory. The Great Elder of the Black Horse Gang didn't feel like a prisoner at all. It was as if Lin Yi couldn't do anything to him. He just told Lin Yi like he was telling a story. I've researched this person, but what you did just now was different from what you did before. Oh? What did he say? Lin Yi frowned slightly. He didn't expect the Great Elder of the Black Horse Club to be so easy to talk to. He answered truthfully when he asked. It seemed that the Great Elder of the Black Horse Club didn't put Lin Yi in his eyes at all. Actually, it's very simple. I hurt the people around you, and I almost killed them. According to the legendary Lin Yi's character, he would be furious for the sake of his women. If you really had the ability to instantly kill a peak late-stage heaven-rank powerhouse, you would have definitely killed me the moment you appeared. You wouldn't have said so much nonsense. The Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Association was obviously a thoughtful and cautious person. He made his own judgment in an instant. Moreover, you actually agreed to let me go, and the conditions you proposed weren't particularly excessive. This is one of the suspicious points. It doesn't match your greedy personality. Lin Yi nodded. He had realized this before, but there was nothing he could do. Su Shihan and Cheng Yi's lives were in danger. Lin Yi didn't want to argue with the Great Elder of the Black Horse Club to avoid unnecessary trouble. However, this was only one of the suspicious points, not the most important one. The most important thing was that he was famous for his protective personality. He didn't expect the Great Elder of the Black Horse Club to see through him. The Great Elder didn't directly attack him the moment he entered the room. This was the biggest flaw. So you attacked me? Lin Yi nodded and asked. You're that confident? Of course, there's one more thing. When you were at the door just now, you had been circulating the mantra. I could feel it. This also means that you appeared the moment I entered the house, but you didn't come in. You didn't stop me when I made my move. Instead, you only came in after I spoke. This also means that you are afraid of me. The Great Elder of the Black Horse Club continued. After you came in, you didn't immediately attack. Instead, you continued to use the mantra. This also proves this point. If you really could instantly kill a peak late-stage heaven-rank powerhouse, you wouldn't have to be so nervous to use the mantra. You're showing your fear. So that's how it is. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. This was another big flaw that wasn't any less than the previous one. So, in summary, these three suspicious points make me sure that you're just an empty shell, the Great Elder of the Black Horse Club said indifferently. However, if I didn't have a trump card, even if I had doubts, I wouldn't have attacked you directly. I would have left this place and wouldn't have caused unnecessary trouble. But I have a trump card. This is the biggest reason I attacked. The suspicious point is that I'm just an assistant. After listening to the words of the great elder of the Black Horse Club, Linny couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. This person was really smart and calm. If he didn't get rid of this person, he would probably be a big problem in the future. However, how could he get rid of him? In fact, from the moment Linny used the inescapable net to trap the great elder of the Black Horse Club, he had been thinking about how to get rid of him. With Lin Yi's strength, he couldn't kill him at all. Even if he was trapped by the inescapable net, he had true chi to protect his body. No matter how Linny hit him, he wouldn't be able to kill him. And he also said that the power of Lin Yi's current moves couldn't cause him any harm. This was the thing that Lin Yi was most conflicted about. He had obviously caught the other party, but he couldn't do anything to him. It was estimated that the great elder of the Black Horse Club was well aware of this. That was why he was fearless and indifferently talked to Lin Yi. Your so-called trump card was the one that sucked away my true chi? Lin Yi asked. Yes. The great elder of the Black Horse Club didn't hide it. He directly nodded and said, Aren't you going to run? Why are you dawdling here? Don't you know that the inescapable net has a time limit? Time limit? Lin Yi was slightly surprised. He hadn't heard the Spider Clan mention it before. Generally, people who were trapped by the inescapable net couldn't escape from the inside. They would need help from the outside to open the inescapable net. But when it came to time limit, Lin Yi really didn't know. But thinking about it, this thing was a one-time use and had a lifespan. It was impossible to trap the great elder of the Black Horse Club for a lifetime, right? Chapter 32-27. Lin Yi's face was a little ugly, but what the Grand Elder said was the truth. Where could he run to? Unless he took Su Shihan, Cheng Yi, and the Dean to the West Star Village to take refuge, but there was still a big mess here, he couldn't just ignore it, right? How long does it last? Lin Yi asked with an ugly face. Looking at the quality of your inescapable net, it should last for a day, but if I struggle inside, it will only last a few hours. The Grand Elder said. It's just that I don't want to waste my effort. You can't do anything to me at all, why should I waste my effort? It seems that you are quite confident. Lin Yi was a little helpless. Indeed, with his own strength, he couldn't do anything to the Grand Elder of the Black Horse Society, even his underlings couldn't do anything. Even if a group of people attacked together, they wouldn't be able to cause any damage to the Grand Elder. After all, they weren't on the same level. Just like a group of ants couldn't shake an elephant, with one stomp of the elephant, the ants would die. However, Lin Yi's mind turned quickly, and he thought of a few people, but he didn't know if these people could help him. The people that Lin Yi knew who could kill the Grand Elder of the Black Horse Society were limited. Other than Old Lin and Air Gooden who were far away in the West Star Village, there were a few people from the blood-clothed underworld sect. But Distant Water couldn't put out a nearby fire. Old Lin couldn't come, and even if Air Gooden came, it would take too long. So, the people that Lin Yi could only ask for help were those from the blood-clothed underworld sect. Thinking of this, Lin Yi could only give it a try. He dialed the number left by the blood-clothed underworld sect's sinister ancestor to see if they could help him kill someone. They were an organization that accepted payment to kill people. If Lin Yi paid a certain price, he should be able to get their help, right? Mr. Lin, hello? When Ancestor Insen saw that it was Lin Yi's number, he immediately answered. His words were very polite. Because of Lin Dongfang's existence, he didn't dare to be disrespectful to Lin Yi. However, he did not dare to go overboard. He could only put on a flattering expression and speak in a calm tone. Old Ancestor Insen, can I ask you to help me kill someone? Lin Yi asked. Originally, when the Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Club saw Lin Yi making a call, he didn't pay much attention. He also knew about Lin Yi's circle of friends. Although he had many underlings, the most powerful ones were only Feng Shipian and a few other ancient people. These people couldn't pose any threat to him, so he wasn't afraid at all. However, his heart skipped a beat when he heard old Ancestor Eriewood's name. Isn't he from the blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect? Lin called them? What did this mean? Did he want to hire an assassin from the Yellow Spring sect to kill him? However, after thinking about it, the Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Club calmed down. Old Ancestor Einstein was just an expert at the peak of the late stage of heaven class. He hadn't reached the great perfection realm yet. Even if he came, he wouldn't be able to kill him with his true chi protection. And if he sent other underlings, then there was even less to worry about. The most worrying ones were the two peak of the late stage of heaven class, Old Ancestor Yellow Spring and Old Ancestor Blood Clothed. However, could these two old ancestors be invited by just anyone? These two old ancestors were existences at the same level as him. They wouldn't be interested in ordinary missions. Moreover, these big shots were very reserved. It was impossible for them to come out just because someone invited them. Moreover, the blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect was far from Songzhan City. Even if the two peak of the late stage of heaven class, Old Ancestor Yellow Spring sect came out, by the time they arrived, he would have already escaped from the inescapable net. There was nothing to worry about. However, the Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Club was obviously an astute and cautious person. He wouldn't allow any deviation. Therefore, when Lin made the call, he began to struggle in the inescapable net. He wanted to escape from the inescapable net as soon as possible, lest Lin really hired an assassin to kill him. According to his estimation, he would struggle for about 3 hours to escape from the inescapable net. The blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect would need at least 7 to 8 hours to get here. Therefore, after weighing the pros and cons, he still wouldn't be in any danger. Oh? Kill someone? Kill who? Mr. Lin wants to hire us, the blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect, to assassinate someone, right? Old Ancestor Einstein was slightly stunned. He didn't expect Lin to hire them to kill someone. However, in order to put on a good show, Old Ancestor Einstein couldn't act too impatient. He couldn't say that as soon as Lin called to kill someone, he would say yes, yes, yes. That would be too pretentious and would easily expose him. Yes, this person is the Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Club. He has the strength of a peak of the late stage of heaven class. I've already used the inescapable net to trap him, but I can't kill him. Your blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect just needs to get the blood-clothed ancestor and Old Ancestor Yellow Spring sect to join forces and kill him. Lin quickly explained in detail. He had already seen the Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Club struggling in the inescapable net. He didn't dare to be negligent. If the Supreme Elder struggled out, it would be a disaster. Therefore, he said concisely, the mission isn't dangerous, and it's relatively easy. How about it? Are you interested, Old Ancestor Einstein? Lin had been an assassin before, so he knew some of the rules. The easier the mission, the lower the reward. However, because of the special level of the person to be killed, 2 important people were needed. The reason why Lin called the people from the blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect was because they were practitioners and could run quickly. Old Lin and Air Gooden could only take the train. In comparison, the people from the blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect could come faster. Ah, it's the Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Club. That's great! Mr. Lin, we were just wondering if we should accept this mission. You've really helped us a lot. Old Ancestor Einstein's heart skipped a beat when he heard that it was the Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Club. Cold sweat appeared on his forehead. Dereliction of duty. The 3 of them were stationed in Dahai City, researching Lin Yi's whereabouts, personality, and social circle. Naturally, they would pay more attention to the things happening around here. A peak of the late stage of heaven class appeared right under their noses. Naturally, they would pay attention to it. However, when they heard that the Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Club appeared to kill the old dean of an orphanage, they didn't pay much attention to it. After all, the Black Horse Club and the blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect were in the same industry. They were all on the same level, and there was no need to ruin their friendship over a small matter. Chapter 32-28. They hadn't investigated the relationship between the orphanage and Lin Yi, and they didn't know that the old dean was Su Shihun's mother. Therefore, they didn't care at all, and only treated the Black Horse Gang's Grand Elder as a passerby. However, after receiving Lin Yi's call, they realized that they were wrong, ridiculously wrong. The Black Horse Gang's Grand Elder actually went against Lin Yi, and after Lin Yi caught him, he even hired the Blood Cloth Underworld Gang's people to kill the Black Horse Gang's Grand Elder. How much hatred did he have? What if Lin Yi didn't have an inescapable net? Wouldn't he be killed by this old thing? Thinking of this, Yinsen's ancestor was drenched in cold sweat. How could he dare to ask for a reward from Lin Yi? Therefore, he acted according to the situation and said so. Did I help? What did I help? Lin Yi was slightly stunned. It's like this, we are not far from here. We came here because someone gave us a new mission. The reward is very high, but the difficulty is also very high. It is to kill the Black Horse Gang's Grand Elder. The Eerie Forest ancestor said. This person is an expert at the peak of the late stage of heaven rank. We don't have the confidence to kill him without suffering any losses in a head-on clash. So when we were discussing a plan, Mr. Lin brought us good news. How about this? We will go over immediately. Count it as our Blood Cloth Underworld gang owes Mr. Lin a favor. If Mr. Lin needs anything in the future, contact me directly. After saying that, Yinsen's ancestor hung up the phone without waiting for Lin Yi to say anything. Obviously, Yinsen's ancestor knew that time was pressing and didn't dare to delay. However, Lin Yi looked at the phone in his hand in a daze, smiling bitterly in his heart. What is this? This is too strange. I originally wanted to hire the Blood Cloth Underworld gang to kill people, but I don't know if they would agree or what conditions they would propose. He was originally worried, but now he had inexplicably become the helper of the blood-clothed underworld sect. Not only did they send people to kill the Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Gang, but they also said that they owed him a favor. Lin Yi shook his head. Strange things happened every year. The Yellow Springs sect had a lot of bloodshed. It was the same last time. However, Lin Yi felt that the people from the Blood Underworld sect were very good. If the other party did not say anything and instead agreed to Lin Yi's request, not only could they earn a commission from Lin Yi, but they would also not owe Lin Yi a favor. Moreover, they could complete their mission of killing the Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Gang. It was killing 3 birds with 1 stone. However, the Blood Cloth Yellow Springs sect didn't do so. What a kind sect! Of course, this was just Lin Yi's impression. He wondered if other cultivators, sects, and families who had dealings with the Blood Cloth Yellow Springs sect would vomit blood. Was the Blood Cloth Yellow Springs sect kind? Honest my ass! How could this kind of assassin organization talk about favors with you? Was he sleep-talking? However, Lin Yi didn't know much about the ancient world. He didn't know what the Blood Cloth Yellow Springs sect was like in the past. After these 2 encounters, he felt that the Blood Cloth Yellow Springs sect was really a good person. Looking at the struggling Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Gang in front of him, Lin Yi's mouth curved into a mocking smile. If the Blood Cloth Yellow Springs sect was on the other side of the sect, they would have rushed over quickly. However, Lin Yi was still worried. He didn't know if the Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Gang would be able to struggle out of the trap. But now, he didn't have to worry about this because the Blood Cloth Yellow Springs sect was nearby. Qingyi didn't expect Lin Yi to know someone from the Blood Cloth Yellow Springs sect. She was a bit surprised, but she felt her injuries gradually getting better. Her heart was filled with guilt. If she had died just now, she would have died. But now, she was alive again. How would she face Su Shirhan in the future? All right, you won't die. Earth-class early phase master. Lin Yi faintly whispered in Qingyi's ear. He used Jinqi to transmit sound so others couldn't hear. However, Qingyi's face flashed a trace of astonishment. Lin Yi actually knew her strength level? That wasn't right, she'd never shown it in front of him before. How did Lin Yi know? Even when Lin Yi healed her, she didn't use Jinqi to heal herself. And before, when she took the blow from the Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Gang, she did use Jinqi to protect her body. But at that time, Lin Yi hadn't entered the door yet. And there was so much Jinqi in the room. There was the deans and the Supreme Elders. Lin Yi shouldn't be able to tell who was who, right? Lin Yi, how did he know? However, being surprised was just being surprised. Before she could ask, Lin Yi had already turned to heal Su Shihan. He didn't give Qingyi a chance to ask. The Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Gang kept struggling in the net. The defense of the net was very good. No matter how the Supreme Elder used his moves, it was like hitting cotton. Moreover, the net was one way. It couldn't be attacked from the inside, but it could be attacked from the outside. So this was the reason why the Supreme Elder was struggling so hard. He wanted to break free and escape. Right now, whether or not he could kill Lin Yi and these people in front of him was no longer important. For the Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Gang, escaping was the most important thing. He didn't want to die in the hands of the blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect. However, how could the net of the Spider Clan be broken so easily? The Great Flame Lion Clan's ability to spit fire from the inside was limited. Only when a few Great Flame Lions spit fire from the outside could it be broken. No matter how powerful the Grand Supreme Elder of the Dark Horse Association was, he was still a human cultivator. Compared to those powerful spirit beasts, there was still a difference. Previously, he also heard Lin Yi's phone call. He was a peak late-stage heaven-class master. The room was very quiet. It wasn't difficult to hear the voice of the gloomy ancestor from Lin Yi's phone. He didn't understand. Why did the blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect receive a mission to kill him? Who wanted to kill him? He was the Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Gang. He rarely left the sect. During this time, he didn't have any enmity with anyone. So, which bastard hired the blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect to kill him? What made him most depressed was that the blood-clothed ancestor, and the gloomy ancestor were all nearby. Then if they came, wouldn't he be dead? How could there be such an unlucky thing in this world? So, he didn't care about what Lin Yi said. All threats were useless. The only thing he could do was to break free and escape. Chapter 32-29. He took in a deep breath, and a mocking smile appeared on his lips. What were you doing just now, trying to cram for the Buddha's feet? If you didn't talk nonsense with me just now, you might have escaped by now. Of course, even if the Grand Elder didn't talk nonsense just now, he definitely wouldn't be able to escape now. Lin Yi's words were just to disturb his mind, so that the Grand Elder wouldn't be able to escape in one piece. In fact, although Lin Yi was mocking him, his eyes didn't even blink as he stared at the inescapable net. When the inescapable net loosened a little, he would escape immediately. At this time, Xiaoke and Xiao Ken also heard the movement and came to the door of the room. However, when they saw the strange scene inside, they didn't dare to rashly enter the door. The Dean, on the other hand, didn't know what to say at this moment. She was a little dumbfounded looking at everything that was happening in front of her. Dean, take Shahani and Xiaoke away from here first. Go somewhere else to rest. Lin Yi said to the Dean because Lin Yi couldn't guarantee that the Grand Elder wouldn't be able to escape from the inescapable net before the people from the Bloodcloak Underworld sect arrived. If he really did escape, then it would be F***ked. He had to hold back at all times. Moreover, when the people from the Bloodcloak Underworld sect came to kill the Grand Elder, the process would definitely be very bloody. After all, if he didn't die in one hit, they would have to fight many times. That would be a bit cruel. Okay, I understand. The Dean nodded. She knew that they were causing trouble for Lin Yi by staying here. If there was trouble later, Lin Yi would have to take care of them, and it would be easy to be distracted. So, the Dean came back to her senses and brought Su Shihan, Qingyi, and Xiaoke out of the room. Although Su Shihan and Qingyi had a lot of questions to ask Lin Yi, they knew it wasn't the right time. After the Dean and the others left, Lin Yi let out a sigh of relief. He looked at the backs of these people until they disappeared. Only then did he turn his head to look at the Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Gang. Hey, you're about to die. Tell me the truth. I don't believe that the Black Horse Gang didn't tell you who sent you on this mission before you left. Humph. The Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Association obviously didn't put Lin Yi in his eyes. He coldly snorted and didn't say anything. Hee hee. Lin Yi frowned slightly and chuckled. He knew that he wouldn't be able to get anything out of him. It would be extremely difficult to pry any secrets out of an expert like the Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Association. If he didn't want to say it, it would be useless no matter how much you asked. Time passed minute by minute. Even though Lin Yi was burning with anxiety, he didn't show it. On the other hand, the Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Association was burning with anxiety. He had struggled for more than 20 minutes, but this inescapable net was still tightly binding his body. It didn't loosen the slightest bit, which made him a little discouraged. If the people from the Blood Cloak Underworld sect were really nearby, half an hour was more than enough for these Peak Late Phase and Peak Late Phase Heaven class masters. Sure enough, there was the sound of hurried footsteps coming from the corridor. The next moment, the Blood Cloak Ancestor, the Underworld Ancestor, and the Eerie Ancestor appeared at the door. The Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Association struggled for a while, but when he saw the three people at the door, he stopped struggling. He was a little disappointed because he knew that no matter how much he struggled, it was useless. The three people in front of him together could kill him. Even if he had true chi protecting his body, these three people took turns to attack him. He would die without a doubt. He was a person who planned before taking action. Since he knew the result, he wouldn't struggle needlessly. Who sent you to kill me? Our Black Horse Association and the Blood Cloak Underworld sect are similar in nature. We have always minded our own business. You know my identity and still came to kill me. Are you trying to start a feud? The Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Association gave up struggling and changed to a way to talk about feelings. Does the Black Horse Association have a business that reveals the identity of the employer? The Eerie Ancestor looked at the Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Association indifferently and said, "Why don't you tell me who sent you first?" The words of the Eerie Ancestor seemed to be sarcastic, but in fact, he was helping Lin Yi figure out the truth. He didn't know if Lin Yi knew the mastermind behind the scenes, but there was no harm in asking. This? If I say it, you'll say it? The Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Association was slightly stunned, but he asked mockingly. Sure, I'll say it if you say it, the Eerie Ancestor said indifferently. Good. I was sent by the ancient Feng family's Feng Tianhu. You should say it now, right? In order to know the truth, the Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Association didn't intend to keep it a secret. He didn't want to die without knowing why. At least before he died, he should at least know how he died. The ancient Feng family's Feng Tianhu? I don't know him. The Eerie Ancestor shook his head as if he didn't care at all. Then he said, Actually, it's not impossible to let you die knowing, but I'm afraid you won't be able to bear it. In fact, the person who hired us to kill you is the Black Horse Association. What? The Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Association's eyes narrowed, and a trace of disbelief flashed in his eyes. But then it became fierce. The president hired you? The president that the Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Association mentioned was naturally the leader of the Black Horse Association. The leader had recently advanced to the peak late stage of heaven rank, which meant that his authority was no longer restricted by the Supreme Elder. He had become the real boss of the Black Horse Association. However, the Great Elder of the Black Horse Association had displayed some dissatisfaction and unnecessary respect for him before. And the other Great Elders had very well adjusted their attitudes. Perhaps this was the reason why he wanted to kill him. In fact, this wasn't a contradiction at all. Even if the president of the Black Horse Association had water in his head, it was impossible for him to spend a large sum of money to kill a fierce member of his own association. This kind of peak late stage heaven rank expert was not common. How could he die so casually? But at this time, the Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Association believed it because he didn't doubt the words of the Eerie Ancestor. After all, the Blood Cloth Underworld sect was the same as the Black Horse Association. They were an organization that took money to eliminate disasters. It was impossible for the Blood Cloth Underworld sect to kill him for no reason, unless they had nothing better to do. So when the Eerie Ancestor said it, he used his rich imagination and blamed his death on the president. Chapter 32:30. It's useless for me to say who it is. It's a small fry that we don't know. You know that our blood cloth underworld sect is different from you guys. We don't need any promises. As long as the reward is enough, we will make our move. We won't ask too many questions." The shady forest ancestor waved his hand. He didn't expect that his casual words would actually hit the mark. This guy had a conflict with the leader of the Black Horse Society? Then there was no need to waste words. Small fry? The great elder of the Black Horse Society froze. He didn't suspect anything. How could a small fry from the Black Horse Society spend money to assassinate him? To be able to get the 3 ancestors of the Blood Cloth Underworld sect to make a move, how much would it cost? Feng Tian, who spent 5 billion and a promise to get a great elder to make a move. If the 3 ancestors of the Blood Cloth Underworld sect were to make a move, and they didn't need promises, it would be at least 20 billion. There was no one else in the Black Horse Society who could take out 20 billion other than the leader. There was only one person in the entire Black Horse Society who could take out 20 billion. I know. Do it. Give me a quick death. The great elder of the Black Horse Society sighed and gave up resisting. He didn't even use his chi to protect his body. He knew that even if he did, it was only a matter of time before he died. If the opponent hit him a few more times, he would still die. Since the outcome was already decided, there was no difference. He didn't have the mood to resist. He might as well let the opponent give him a quick death. Straightforward. The shady forest ancestor was stunned and nodded. Without saying anything else, the Bloodcloth ancestor, the Yellow Spring ancestor, and the shady forest ancestor stepped forward and surrounded the great elder of the Black Horse Society. At the same time, they started chanting. For a moment, the pressure of the qi in the room made Lin Yi feel like he couldn't breathe. Too strong. Lin Yi's own injuries hadn't healed yet. He just didn't have any life-threatening danger, so he quickly went to heal Qing Yi and Su Shihan. At this moment, 2 peak late phase heaven class masters and 1 peak late phase heaven class master were chanting together. Lin Yi was so close that he almost couldn't hold it and spat out a mouthful of blood. Pfft. The great elder of the Black Horse Society looked at Lin Yi indifferently and shook his head. It seemed that the rumors were wrong. It seemed that Lin Yi was familiar with the Blood Cloth Underworld sect. Perhaps the 2 peak late phase heaven class masters were hired by Lin Yi to kill them. The Grand Elder of the Black Horse Gang knew that Lin Yi was rich. That cauldron could be sold for hundreds of millions, even billions. It was more than enough to hire the Blood Cloak Underworld sect to kill people. He didn't know that Lin Yi donated to the orphanage. He thought that the money was Lin Yi's. However, even if he guessed this conclusion, he wouldn't be able to send out the message. He would die in the next moment. The pressure in the air made Lin Yi breathless. He quickly used the 3rd level of the Art of Dragon Mastery to resist it. Although Lin Yi knew that the chi pressure of these 3 people wasn't targeting Lin Yi was too close. He was affected. This was the so-called getting shot while lying down. The shady forest ancestor also noticed Lin Yi's situation, but he didn't care because they weren't targeting Lin Yi. Lin Yi could have left the room. Lin Yi didn't go out, which meant that he could still bear it. Naturally, they wouldn't worry. It was estimated that Lin Yi wanted to see the great elder of the Black Horse Society die with his own eyes. The shady forest ancestor and the others didn't dare to be careless. Although the great elder of the Black Horse Society had already said that he would give him a quick death, which meant that he was waiting for death. After all, this was the first time in their lives that they were about to kill an expert at the peak of the late stage of Heaven stage. They were a little nervous, afraid that something would go wrong. Therefore, they didn't make a move directly. Instead, they gathered their strength and prepared to use their strongest move at the same time to directly send the great elder of the Black Horse Society away. The reason why Lin Yi didn't leave was not because he wanted to see the great elder of the Black Horse Society killed. There was no need to watch at all. There was no suspense at all. The great elder of the Black Horse Society was facing 2 experts at the peak of the late stage of Heaven stage, and 1 expert at the peak of the late stage. Needless to say, the Great Elder of the Black Horse Society had already given up resisting. Even if he didn't give up resisting, he would die without a doubt. While Lin Yi was circulating the mantra here, he actually felt a glimmer of an opportunity for a breakthrough in strength. Previously, when Lin Yi fought with the Great Elder of the Black Horse Society, he was always in a state of tension. This kind of struggle that exceeded the limits of his body brought Lin Yi physical overdraft, but it also brought an opportunity for his strength to improve a step further. However, the difference in strength between Lin Yi and the Great Elder of the Black Horse Society was too great. The two only exchanged one move, and Lin Yi had no choice but to use the inescapable net, or else he would definitely die. This made Lin Yi very depressed. He had clearly touched the edge of the barrier, and as long as he put in a little effort, he would definitely break through. However, it came to an abrupt stop at the critical moment. This made Lin Yi feel bitter but unable to say it out loud. However, at this time, the three of them, Blood Cloak Ancestor, Netherworld Ancestor, and Gloomy Ancestor, were circulating the mantra together. The pressure brought by this true energy was not a joke. While Lin Yi was shocked, he was also surprised and happy. The opportunity that was just a little bit away from was touched by Lin Yi again. Although the combined strength of these three people far exceeded the Great Elder of the Black Horse Society, the target of these three people was not Lin Yi. Lin Yi was only affected by the aftershock. And the aftershock of one person could not cause such great pressure to Lin Yi, but it was the aftershock of three people. Although for Lin Yi, 3 people was a little too much, and 2 was just right, but Lin Yi did not care so much. It was not easy to get an opportunity, and Lin Yi would not easily give up. If he gave up, who knew when the next opportunity would come? And although the pressure of these 3 people was great, it was not that Lin Yi could not bear it. He could barely resist it, but it was a little hard, and it was easy to vomit blood from internal injuries. Of course, internal injuries and vomiting blood were not afraid of Lin Yi, as long as he could level up. As for injuries, with the art of dragon mastery and the space of the jade pendant, it was easy to recover. Therefore, Lin Yi did not leave, but desperately circulated the mantra to resist the true energy pressure of the 3 ancestors. Although Gloomy Ancestor was puzzled by Lin Yi's action, he did not say much. In his opinion, Lin Yi was smarter than anyone else. At this time, he did not leave, but vomited blood to resist. There must be a reason for Lin Yi, so let him do as he pleased. Chapter 32-31. Under the command of the Blood Cloak Ancestor, the Netherworld Ancestor, and the Gloomy Ancestor also sped up the circulation of the mantra. At the same time, the true chi around their bodies also rose to a very powerful level. Pfft! Lin Yi spat out a mouthful of blood again. This kind of pressure squeezed the meridians in Lin Yi's body, as if they were paralyzed. However, the true chi in the meridians urged them to expand continuously. This pressure and expansion almost made Lin Yi's whole body explode, so he spat out a mouthful of blood. However, at this moment, the meridians in Lin Yi's body suddenly began to shake violently, and there was a loud bang in Lin Yi's whole body, like a flood bursting through a dam. The true chi in his body seemed to have broken through some barrier and began to quickly cover every corner of Lin Yi's body. Breakthrough. Lin Yi took a deep breath and did not dare to be negligent. He quickly circulated the art of dragon mastery to stabilize the true chi in his body, because he felt that there was an even greater pressure coming from behind. Although Lin Yi had just broken through and became an expert with the strength of the early stage of Heaven stage, the simultaneous attacks of the Blood Cloak Ancestor, the Netherworld Ancestor, and the Gloomy Ancestor were no joke. Lin Yi did not want to be tragically killed by the aftershocks of these 3 people's big moves just after his breakthrough. That would be as miserable as it could be. However, it was too late for Lin Yi to escape. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. The 3 elders made their moves, unleashing their ultimate skills at the Grand Elder of the Black Horse Society. Boom! Under this powerful blow, the Dark Horse Society's Great Elder closed his eyes peacefully, a trace of blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. Obviously, although he was dead, he was still an expert with the strength of the late stage of heaven stage great perfection. His body was not broken into pieces. On the other hand, Lin was unlucky. He had just broken through, but he had to forcibly circulate the mantra to resist this even more powerful pressure. In an instant, Lin Yi's resistance was raised to the limit. He had no choice but to use his most powerful true qi to protect himself from the aftermath of this pressure. However, even so, Lin Yi's entire body was pushed out by the aftermath of this coercion. He flew directly out of the window, fell directly from upstairs to downstairs, and landed heavily on the cement floor, making a dull, loud noise. Lin Yi was in a daze from the fall. His internal organs had shifted positions, and his bones and meridians were mostly damaged. If it was someone else, they would have died very quickly. The pressure of 3 peak late-stage heaven rank experts wasn't a joke, not to mention that 2 of them were perfection stage experts. However, even though Lin Yi was about to die, the corners of his mouth revealed a surprised and delighted smile. Lin Yi actually touched the barrier of heaven rank middle stage. How was this possible? Although Lin Yi didn't believe that he could stabilize the strength of the peak early stage heaven rank in an instant and touch the barrier of heaven rank middle stage, but that feeling in that instant could not be wrong. It was indeed the barrier of heaven rank middle stage. It turned out that the potential of a cultivator was limitless. When facing the powerful pressure of 3 top experts, Lin Yi successfully achieved transcendence and breakthrough. Not only did he stabilize his newly promoted strength in an instant, but he also accumulated true qi in an instant and touched the barrier of heaven rank middle stage. Although, to advance to heaven rank middle stage still needed a period of time or an opportunity, he had already touched the barrier. Would it be any further to advance? Of course, only Lin Yi dared to use this method of transcendence and breakthrough. If it was any other cultivator, they would have died at this moment. Even if they transcended themselves, what was the use? This kind of injury could only be healed by Lin Yi himself. Even a recover pill would be useless. After the joy, Lin Yi quickly ran the 3rd level of the Art of Dragon Mastery and began to quickly repair his damaged body, meridians, and bones. These were not a problem for Lin Yi. Lin Yi meditated on the concrete floor below the dormitory. However, Lin Yi was knocked out of the window by the pressure of true qi and fell downstairs, which shocked the Blood Cloak Ancestor, the Underworld Ancestor, and the Gloomy Ancestor. Oh my god, I just wanted to kill the Great Elder of the Black Horse Gang in one move, but I ignored Lin Yi. Now that Lin Yi was killed, their death was probably coming soon. Could Lin Dongfang spare them? Could Yang Ming let them go? If either one of them came, these 3 would have to bear the consequences. Let's see how Master Lin Yi is. The Gloomy Ancestor reacted the fastest. He couldn't care less about the body of the Black Horse Gang's Great Elder. He jumped directly from the window, and the Blood Cloak Ancestor and the Underworld Ancestor followed closely. They were also nervous. Originally, they came to curry favor, but now they didn't do it properly. Lin Yi was killed. This was bad luck. However, Elder Yinsen heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Lin Yi meditating downstairs, breathing evenly. He could feel that Lin Yi was running the mantra, and his strength had just broken through to the peak of the early stage of heaven stage. It seemed that Lin Yi was fine. What the Gloomy Ancestor could feel, the Blood Cloak Ancestor and the Underworld Ancestor could also feel, so these 3 simply became Lin Yi's protectors. They stationed themselves beside Lin Yi and waited for Lin Yi to return to reality from the state of meditation. Although Lin Yi was cultivating, he could also feel the arrival of the Gloomy Ancestor and the other 2, and they actually protected him. This made Lin Yi very surprised. He thought that they would leave after killing people. He didn't expect them to be so loyal and kind. The 3rd level of the Art of Dragon Mastery's healing speed was very fast. Although Lin Yi was seriously injured, he recovered quickly. Soon, Lin Yi opened his eyes, stood up, and cupped his fist to the 3 ancestors sitting beside him. Thank you, 3 ancestors, for protecting me. Mr. Lin Yi, are you okay? When the Gloomy Ancestor saw Lin Yi standing in front of him full of energy, he immediately breathed a sigh of relief. but his heart was full of admiration. He is indeed the grandson of Lin Dongfang, the disciple of Mr. Yang Ming. He is so powerful. He can break through in the pressure and heal himself. But thinking about it, how could these two juniors that he valued be bad? Chapter 32. Haha, there's no need to thank us. We didn't do anything. Einstein waved his hand. On the other hand, Mr. Lin Yi, you're amazing. This is the first time I've seen someone level up like this. You flatter me. Lin Yi saw that Einstein's ancestor wasn't curious at all. Weren't they curious? But when he thought of their identity as assassins, he understood. Assassins usually wouldn't ask about things that had nothing to do with them. Why would they ask so much for money? Curiosity killed the cat. This time, we have to thank Mr. Lin Yi. If you didn't use the net to trap this old thing, we wouldn't have dared to make a move. You saved us a lot of trouble this time. We didn't have to do anything and completed the mission, Einstein's ancestor said. Let's go up and take a look. Okay. I just happened to be there. I have to thank the three of you for helping. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to deal with him. Although they said so, Lin Yi had to be polite. After all, they were helping each other. Although Lin Yi felt that the Blood Cloak Underworld sect was very loyal, he didn't dare to go too far. After all, they didn't owe him anything. They were businessmen. It was already very good that they could do this. The four went up together. At this time, they saw the old dean, Su Shihan, Qingyi, Xiaoke, and Xiao Ken at the entrance of the dormitory. Obviously, they saw Lin Yi meditating on the ground, but they didn't go over to disturb him. After the three ancestors of the Blood Cloak Underworld sect appeared, they didn't need to disturb him. They just stood far away and watched Lin Yi quietly. Seeing that Lin Yi seemed to be fine, the old dean and the others breathed a sigh of relief. Su Shihan and Qingyi's eyes flashed with excitement and relief, but Xiaoke's mood was very complicated. In fact, Lin Yi's death was a good thing for Xiaoke. She didn't need to worry about Lin Yi pestering her in the future, and she didn't need to worry about any obstacles between her and the male thief. But Xiaoke didn't want anything to happen to Lin Yi. Although she didn't like Lin Yi, she knew that Lin Yi was a good person, and Lin Yi died trying to save the dean. Xiaoke wouldn't be happy for the rest of her life. She even thought that she might be a widow for him. Since she made a promise, she had to do it. She didn't think that she was a good girl, but she wasn't someone who went back on her words. Xiaoke let out a sigh of relief when she saw that he was fine. This guy was pretty strong, what a lucky guy. Lin Yi, are you alright? Su Shihan couldn't help but ask when she saw Lin Yi walking over. Her eyes were shining with deep concern. She didn't hide it at all. Su Shihan had been with Lin Yi every day, and Lin Yi had saved her many times. It was impossible to say that she didn't have feelings for Lin Yi. Su Shihan had already given her heart to him, and now that she found her mother, she didn't have to worry too much anymore. The reason she became a celebrity was to find her mother. Now that she had found her mother, she started to think about retreating. She didn't care about the gossip anymore. She liked Lin Yi, and that was it. There was no need to hide it. But Su Shihan didn't know if she still had a chance. Thinking about it, she felt like a failure. She was a star, but Lin Yi never treated her like one. In Lin Yi's mind, she was just a normal friend, right? Lin Yi, thank you. Chen Yi looked at Lin Yi guiltily. She didn't know what to say. Lin Yi knew that she was an Earth class? Did Lin Yi know about the things he had done to Xiaohan? Did he know? Didn't he know? Chen Yi didn't know, but she felt bad in her heart. But a lot of times, people couldn't help themselves, right? Lin Yi nodded, but his eyes didn't stay on Chen Yi for long. He didn't want Su Shihan to notice anything. He planned to talk to Chen Yi when there was no one else around, so he turned to the dean and said, Dean, it's okay, take them to rest. This great elder of the Black Horse Gang was found by Feng Tianhu from the ancient Feng family. I don't think I need to say why he looked for you. As for Feng Tianhu, I will find him. But I hope that everyone can keep the details of what happened tonight a secret. Although Lin Yi didn't say it clearly, everyone knew what Lin Yi was talking about. It was Lin Yi's true strength. The rumor that Lin Yi could kill a heaven-class late-phase peak was just a rumor. Lin Yi wasn't that powerful. If it wasn't for the Blood Cloak Yellow Spring sect, Lin Yi really wouldn't be able to do anything. I understand. Ol Amos nodded solemnly. We won't say anything, right, Xiao Han? Yes. Su Shihan nodded. Then we'll go upstairs and take care of the corpses. We'll talk about the rest tomorrow, okay? Lin Yi nodded and said to the dean. Okay. The dean was tired as well. He nodded and brought Su Shihan and the others to rest. Xiaoke, on the other hand, didn't say anything. When Lin Yi turned around and was about to leave, Xiaoke suddenly said, Lin Yi, I will keep my promise. Xiaoke made a decision at this moment. She wanted to tell the male thief that she had made up her mind. Lin Yi was a good person, and Xiaoke didn't want to cheat his feelings anymore. What? Lin Yi paused. He knew the answer, but he still asked. No. Nothing. Xiaoke was a little discouraged. Did Lin Yi really not hear what she said? Lin Yi, Blood Cloak Ancestor, Yellow Spring Ancestor, and Eason Ancestor went upstairs and arrived at the door of the broken room. The body of the Black Horse Gang's Grand Elder was lying quietly in the room. This was a hero of his generation, a top-level practitioner. It was a pity that he died here. Net of heaven and earth. Too bad it's a one-time use. I can't use it again. Lin Yi looked at the net of heaven and earth on the Grand Elder and sighed. It was a pity. But this guy has a good treasure. Compared to your net of heaven and earth, it's not bad. Old Ancestor Eason pointed at the Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Gang and said, The divine weapons of these top-notch experts were all listed in the primordial era. Old Ancestor Eason of the blood-clothed Yellow Spring sect naturally knew about them. Chapter 32-33. At that time, Lin Yi was a little puzzled. Even if his attack was ineffective against him, it was impossible for him to just disappear, right? Even if I can't kill him, I can at least make him stagger, right? However, after the Qi Bomb was released, there was no sound at all. My Qi Bomb is gone just like that. However, later, the Supreme Elder of the Dark Horse Gang said that he had a trump card, but he did not tell Lin Yi what it was. Could it be the treasure that Gloomy Forest Ancestor mentioned? Is it his trump card? Thinking of this, Lin Yi's heart moved, and he quickly asked, Gloomy Forest Ancestor, what treasure is it? This thing is called a Qi Ring. With that, Gloomy Forest Ancestor took an inconspicuous black ring from the Supreme Elder of the Dark Horse Gang's hand, raised it to Lin Yi, and said, This thing can absorb the enemy's Qi attack and store it in this ring. Then, when you want to release it, you can turn the Qi inside into a move and release it. Moreover, the absorbed power is stronger than before. Ah! Lin Yi looked at the ring in front of him in shock. No wonder. It seems that my Qi Bomb was absorbed by this thing, and the Supreme Elder of the Dark Horse Gang casually pointed and the Qi was released and hit my body. No wonder it was so strong. Under the situation where I dodged the Qi protection, it could still blow a hole in half of my arm. This power is even stronger than the power I released before. However, this is a good thing. At a critical moment when facing the enemy, not only can it save my life, but it can also be used to fight back. It is really a rare good thing. Of course, although Lin Yi thought that this thing is good, he did not have any thoughts of taking it for himself. After all, the three people in front of him are top experts, and they are also his saviors. They have a good relationship with him, so it is impossible for Lin Yi to take away their love. However, what Lin Yi did not expect was that after taking the Qi Ring, Blood Cloak Ancestor directly handed it to Lin Yi and said, This thing is for you. The Blood Cloak Underworld sect does not like to owe others too many favors. Last time, Dongfang Yinxing and Purine Heavenly Master already owed you a favor. Including this time, there are 2 in total. How about I return one to you first? This tone was asking, but how could Lin Yi dare to refuse? Putting aside the fact that this was a great thing, he wouldn't mind even if he got a piece of trash to return the favor. After all, no matter what, the Blood Cloak Underworld sect helped him twice. Even if they did not tell him that they had a mission, it would be normal for him to owe them a favor. Not to mention, they would tell him the truth. Therefore, Lin Yi was pleasantly surprised. He took the qi ring and said, "This thing is a bit too valuable, isn't it?" It wasn't that Lin Yi was being polite, but the truth was that he didn't think that the favor he owed them was worth a Sky-class weapon like this. Although this weapon seemed to be a support-type weapon, its value wasn't to be underestimated. Back when he exchanged with Xuegu, it could be seen how valuable a heaven-grade weapon was. Therefore, Lin Yi did not want to take advantage of the Blood Cloak Underworld sect. Since it's a favor, then there's no need to care about the value of the item. A favor is worthless. Blood Cloak Ancestor waved his hand and said, "So it's settled?" This? Lin Yi pondered for a moment, and then made a decision. He took out the gale-chasing lightning boots from the space in the jade pendant and placed it in front of Blood Cloak Ancestor. "Blood Cloak Ancestor, it's not good for me to take advantage of you. This is a pair of gale-chasing lightning boots. I believe you are familiar with it because it belongs to the Blood Cloak Underworld sect. I will now return it to its original owner." To be honest, the gale-chasing lightning boots were also a good item, but it was snatched from the Blood Cloak Underworld sect. Moreover, Lin Yi did not know how to use it, so it was useless to keep it. It was impossible for him to ask the Blood Cloak Underworld sect how to use it. This item originally belonged to them. How could Lin Yi ask them how to use it? Wasn't this the same as slapping his face? It was a bit too much to ask them how to use it after snatching it. Especially since Lin Yi had a good relationship with the Blood Cloak Underworld sect, it was even more inappropriate to ask. Now was a suitable opportunity to return it to the Blood Cloak Underworld sect. Lin Yi would not feel that he owed the Blood Cloak Underworld sect too much. However, to Lin Yi's surprise, Blood Cloak Ancestor glanced at the gale-chasing lightning boots and said, "Oh, since it's your loot, it's yours. Insen, make a copy of the chant and give it to Mr. Lin Yi." Ah? Lin Yi was completely dumbfounded. These people from Bloodcloak Yellow Spring were too kind, weren't they? Or could it be that they were too sentimental? They didn't even want to return it to them? Why did Lin Yi feel like he was dreaming? Looking at Lin Yi's stunned expression, Bloodcloak Ancestor did not know what to say. The two ancestors did not know much about the ways of the world. Wasn't this a bit too direct? This was obviously siding with Lin Yi. How could Lin Yi not overthink it? However, Bloodcloak Ancestor was a slick person after all. He quickly found a reason to explain. "Mr. Lin Yi, you don't have to think too much. This is how it is in ancient times. If you try to kill someone, but fail and get killed, the things on your body will naturally belong to them. This is the rule of ancient times. We have no reason to ask for it. It's unreasonable." In fact, what Bloodcloak Ancestor said was the truth. However, the truth was that only the ordinary ancient sects followed this rule. The powerful ancient sects would not abide by it. They would still take revenge. However, there was no need to tell this to Lin Yi. Therefore, Bloodcloak Ancestor only explained it this way. His purpose was to make Lin Yi feel that it was natural. "So that's how it is?" Lin Yi nodded. "In that case, I'll accept it. No matter what, I still have to thank everyone. We're helping each other." Bloodcloak Ancestor waved his hand. The chant to use the gale-chasing lightning boots had already been written down. This thing was not complicated, and there were only a few chants. Chapter 32-34. The true Qi ring is actually very easy to use. You just need to drip your blood on it to recognize its owner. This way, the true Qi ring can be activated according to your thoughts. The eerie ancestor didn't hide anything and directly said everything he knew. Of course, this thing can only recognize its owner once. Unless its original owner dies, it can't be used even if someone else takes it away. So that's how it is. Lin Yi originally had the thought of not showing off his wealth. What if someone coveted this thing on his hand? After all, he wasn't a top cultivator yet. Although he had a fierce reputation, he still knew his limits. But this way, he wouldn't have to worry about others thinking about it. If they wanted to take the ring, they would have to kill him first. Lin Yi wasn't afraid of others threatening him with other conditions and forcefully taking the ring. Yes, Mr. Lin Yi, we will take the corpse of the Dark Horse Association's Supreme Elder first. Same as before, please keep it a secret for us. This mission is carried out in secret, and the person who hired us is also from the Dark Horse Association. He naturally doesn't want this matter to be exposed, it wouldn't be good for him, the eerie ancestor said. So, we can only put this responsibility on Mr. Lin Yi's head. This person was killed by you. I understand. Lin Yi nodded. This was the result he wanted to see, and he didn't doubt the words of the blood-clothed underworld sex eerie ancestor. After all, it would be a huge scandal if the sex president hired someone to kill the Supreme Elder. Naturally, it would be better to keep it a secret. After saying that, the eerie ancestor didn't say anything else. He picked up the corpse of the Dark Horse Association's Supreme Elder and disappeared into the boundless night along with the blood-clothed ancestor and the underworld ancestor. Lin Yi bitterly smiled and shook his head. He returned to his room and continued to cultivate. Lin Yi had just touched the barrier of the mid-heaven rank, so he had to work hard. If he broke through to the mid-heaven rank in one fell swoop, then Lin Yi might truly have the ability to instantly kill a peak late heaven rank powerhouse. There would be no need for rumors. On the other floor of the dormitory, the dean and Su Shihan stayed in the same room. After such a storm, the mother and daughter must have a lot to talk about. Cheng Yi, on the other hand, stayed in a room by herself. Although Lin Yi had healed most of the injuries on her body, there were still some superficial injuries that hadn't been healed. Therefore, Cheng Yi was still in pain. However, she couldn't care less about the pain now. Her heart was full of suffering. He didn't know how to face Lin Yi and Su Shihan in the future. She wanted to come clean with Su Shihan, but she didn't have the chance. Su Shihan was always with the dean. She didn't give Cheng Yi a chance to be alone. Just when Cheng Yi was hesitating, her phone rang. Cheng Yi picked up the phone and looked at the caller ID. She couldn't help but sigh deeply. However, she still picked up the phone. Boss. The person that Cheng Yi called boss was Feng Tianhu from the ancient Feng family. It turned out that Cheng Yi was actually a spy that he placed beside Su Shihan. In other words, Cheng Yi was also a tool that Feng Tianhu used to make money in the secular world. How is it? Is that old woman dead? Feng Tianhu had actually received Cheng Yi's text message earlier. Tonight, Su Shihan decided to stay at the orphanage. Lin Yi also stayed there. This made Feng Tianhu feel uneasy. Lin Yi actually stayed here? How could the great elder of the Black Horse gang do it? But Cheng Yi tried to persuade them, but they didn't listen. Feng Tianhu couldn't do anything. And what Feng Tianhu was most afraid of was that the great elder of the Black Horse gang would die here. But thinking about it, the great elder of the Black Horse gang was a peak late-stage heaven-class master. Lin Yi could instantly kill a peak late-stage heaven-class master, but he might not be able to beat a peak late-stage heaven-class master. After all, they were two different levels. The difference was quite big. Feng Tianhu didn't think that Lin Yi had the ability to do it. Because if Lin Yi really had the ability, then wouldn't he just kill his way to the ancient Feng family and stir up trouble in the ancient world? No, that assassin is dead. Cheng Yi took a deep breath and said, What? Feng Tianhu was shocked. What he was afraid of really happened. He couldn't believe his ears. What did you say? The Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Group, an esteemed peak late-stage heaven-rank great perfection expert, actually died? How did he die? How else could he die? Cheng Yi's heart moved. Her face showed a determined expression, but her tone was a bit helpless. I don't know how he died. Su Shihan, the dean, and I all ran away. Only Lin Yi and the great elder of the Black Horse gang were left in the room, only the two of them? Lin Yi killed him? Feng Tianhu's eyelids twitched. Although he had already guessed this possibility, after confirming it, he still couldn't help but be afraid and disappointed. Heavens, could Lin Yi really kill a peak late phase Sky class practitioner who was as strong as an atomic bomb on the ground? That was too powerful, right? I don't know. Maybe. Qingyi didn't say too much, but her words made it clear that it was Lin Yi who killed him. Feng Tianhu naturally thought so too. Then, that idiot from the Black Horse gang didn't reveal my identity, right? Lin Yi doesn't know that I'm the one who found him, right? After Feng Tianhu's disbelief, he was deeply afraid. Lin Yi could even kill a peak late-stage heaven class master. Killing Feng Tianhu was as easy as flipping his hand. What should he do? Feng Tianhu regretted it a little. Being impulsive was the devil. He shouldn't have tried to touch anyone related to Lin Yi. No matter what, the dean was still Su Shihan's mother. If Lin Yi interfered, he wouldn't be able to live a good life. Now Lin Yi didn't know. If he knew, then he definitely wouldn't let him go. Wasn't he looking for death? I'm not sure because I wasn't there. Han and I were both injured. It was Lin Yi who helped me heal and then we came out, Cheng Yi said. Chapter 32-35. Feng Tianhu was panicking. If Lin Yi found out that he was the mastermind, Lin Yi would definitely find him for provoking Lin Yi again and again. So, Feng Tianhu was prepared to run. How can I ask? Qing Yi didn't want to work for Feng Tianhu anymore. She already felt sorry for Su Shihan. Naturally, she didn't want to listen to Feng Tianhu anymore. Originally, she thought that Feng Tianhu was a very powerful person. She was destined to be unable to fight against him. But now that she heard his panic tone, he no longer had his usual majesty. So, he was also a paper tiger. In front of Lin Yi, he was nothing. Humph! You're a celebrity. Don't tell me you don't have any tricks up your sleeve. Lin Yi has so many beautiful women around him. Don't tell me you don't know why he's trying so hard to protect Su Shihan. I'm also a man. I know this. Go to his room tonight. I don't care what you do, but you have to give me a definite answer. See if he knows about me. Most importantly, see if he has any plans to deal with me. Feng Tianhu ordered. Cheng Yi, I'm warning you. Don't think you can get away with it. Once you're done with this, I'll show you your brother's recent photos. If you don't do it well, don't even think about seeing your brother for the rest of your life. Do you hear me? Okay. Qing Yi nodded helplessly inside. Her brother was a hostage in Feng Tianhu's hands. What could she do? She and her brother were orphans that Feng Tianhu adopted since young. Feng Tianhu used the excuse of training her brother. She didn't know where he sent her brother, and made her a celebrity to earn money for him. Qing Yi was worried about her brother's safety. She had no choice but to let Feng Tianhu do whatever he wanted. Humph, I'm telling you. Don't play tricks. Don't think that I'm afraid of Lin Yi. Let me tell you, if I'm done for, your brother won't have a good life either. Feng Tianhu threatened. He was really afraid that Qing Yi would run away. After all, Lin Yi's strength was too terrifying. Anyone would be afraid of going against Lin Yi. I understand, boss, Qing Yi quickly said. It's good that you know. Feng Tianhu snorted and hung up the phone. Qing Yi looked at her phone and couldn't help but sigh. However, Qing Yi had already made a decision. There was no turning back. She knew that she couldn't retreat this time. She couldn't make the same mistake again. As long as he could get Lin Yi's help, it was not impossible to force Feng Tianhu to hand over his brother. Of course, the premise was that Lin Yi forgave her for all the wrong things she did to Su Shihan. Gritting her teeth, Qing Yi resolutely walked to the door, quietly went upstairs, and walked to Lin Yi's room. Qing Yi was an Earth-class early-phase master. Although the dean was an Earth-class late-phase peak, he had just leveled up. Qing Yi was good at disguising herself. It was easy to fool the dean. But it was impossible to hide it from Lin Yi. Someone was coming upstairs, and Lin Yi noticed it while he was in his training mode. He wasn't too nervous, and judging from the footsteps, it should be Qing Yi. Lin Yi could recognize Qing Yi's voice after spending so much time with her. It seemed that this girl wanted to be honest with him? Lin Yi shook his head. He didn't kill Qingyi and instead saved her. It was all because she blocked an attack for Su Shihan. From this, it could be seen that Qingyi wasn't a bad person. Maybe she regretted it, or maybe she had her own difficulties. Qingyi came to the door of Lin Yi's room. She took a deep breath, gritted her teeth, and slowly unbuttoned her pajamas. The pajamas fell to the ground, revealing her healthy wheat-colored skin. Although this skin color looked a little dark, it was a relatively popular color nowadays. It looked sexier and healthier, and Qingyi had always walked this route. Because she was a cultivator, her body was very good, and her skin was firmer and more supple than Su Shihan's. This was a body that could make men go crazy for it. Although Qingyi didn't think that Lin Yi was a pervert, but after thinking about it, the only thing that could make Lin Yi forgive her was this body. Luckily, it was a pure body. Otherwise, why would Lin Yi ask Feng Tianhu for her? Why would Lin Yi listen to a spy like her? Lin Yi's door wasn't locked, so Qingyi pushed the door open and walked in. The moment Qingyi walked in, Lin Yi opened his eyes and returned to reality from his training state. However, when he saw Qingyi without any clothes on, he was startled. However, the beautiful scene in front of him made his heart beat faster. It was undeniable that among the girls Lin Yi knew, Qingyi was the first. She was full of wild beauty. But Lin Yi was a strong-willed person. Although he was still a bit lustful, he could control himself and not let himself get lost. "Qingyi, what do you mean?" Lin Yi frowned and asked indifferently. "Lin Yi want me?" Qingyi didn't explain to Lin Yi. She went up and hugged Lin Yi, squeezing her body into Lin Yi's embrace. Lin Yi's shirt had a hole in it from the battle, and there was quite a bit of blood on it. So, when he was training, Lin Yi just took it off. His upper body was bare. Practitioners weren't that cold anyway. Qingyi was sticking to him naked, rubbing her breasts against Lin Yi's chest. It made Lin Yi's mouth go dry. But Lin Yi was still very calm. Qingyi was a beauty, and pushing her down would be a great achievement, but Lin Yi didn't have any relationship with her. He had Xiao Xiao, the miss, and Shu at home, and he didn't push her down yet. Pushing Qingyi first? Lin Yi wasn't that careless. If it were the miss, Shu, Wang Xinyan, or Xiao Xiao, Lin Yi would have pushed the boat with the current. Even if it was Han Jingjing, Ling Shan, or Sun Jingyi. But Qingyi, there was no relationship at all, and Qingyi was clearly a spy. Lin Yi didn't even know what her goal was. If he really pushed her down, things wouldn't be clear. Should he follow her and harm Su Shihan, or kill her? Lin Yi would be in a difficult position, so he might as well push Qingyi away. Chapter 32-36. Qingyi sniffed Lin Yi's manly scent. She was a little aroused, but she didn't expect that Lin Yi didn't want to touch her at all. She was a little disappointed. To be honest, after spending time with Lin Yi, Su Shihan's heart was secretly in love with him, and Qingyi actually had a good impression of Lin Yi. It was just that the huge pressure on her would sometimes cover up this good impression. When Qingyi wanted to get rid of this pressure, her good impression of Lin Yi would suddenly be released, just like when Su Shihan found her mother. Qingyi didn't say anything. She silently turned around and walked to the door. She bent down and picked up her pajamas from the floor. However, Lin Yi secretly swallowed his saliva. The moment Qingyi bent down, the mysterious area under her body was right in front of Lin Yi's eyes. It made Lin Yi feel like his blood was about to burst. Lin Yi felt that Qingyi did it on purpose. Yes, Qingyi did it on purpose. She was a little unconvinced. Before, she wanted to give her body to Lin Yi out of helplessness, but Lin Yi rejected her. It made Qingyi feel hurt. Wasn't she pretty? Wasn't she sexy? Wasn't her figure good? Why did Lin Yi reject her? Therefore, Qingyi thought of ways to seduce Lin Yi again. When she quickly turned around, she saw Lin Yi's face was a little red. She immediately smiled. It seemed that Lin Yi wasn't really calm. It was just that his willpower was good. He definitely had some thoughts about her. Thinking of this, Qingyi felt a little balanced again. Although Qingyi wore her pajamas, it was just a nightgown. There was nothing underneath, and there were no buttons on the top either. There was only a belt around the waist that tied the nightgown up. If Qingyi sat down, her upper body would be faintly discernible. Qingyi was like a wild cat. She smiled slyly and sat in front of Lin Yi. From Lin Yi's angle, he could see her chest through her collar. Ahem. Lin Yi was a little helpless. He reluctantly turned his eyes away and said to Qingyi, "Tell me, why are you looking for me?" "Sex?" Qingyi said. "Pfft. Cough, cough, cough." Lin Yi coughed after hearing Qingyi's words. "I'm serious. You've seen it just now. It's true." Qingyi shrugged innocently, revealing a large gap in her neckline. Lin Yi's gaze was attracted by Qingyi's sex again. He didn't expect to see something he shouldn't have seen again. He couldn't help but feel a little speechless. "Okay. Actually, I'm here to be honest with you." Qingyi knew that enough was enough. If she kept going with Lin Yi might find it interesting at first. But after a while, he might kick her out. That would be a tragedy for her. "Earth class early phase? I've known for a long time." Lin Yi put away his awkward smile and said directly when they got down to business. "How did you know? When did you find out? Or did you already know my identity?" Qingyi asked in surprise. "From the first time I saw you, I already knew. When Su Shihan went out with us, I already suspected you, but I wasn't sure," Lin Yi said. "You're right. You suspected me then?" Qingyi was stunned. She didn't expect to be exposed so early. She couldn't help but feel a little discouraged. "Lin Yi, I'm a star. Being good at acting is my specialty. You suspected me the first time you saw me? Am I that bad?" "It has nothing to do with your acting." Lin Yi waved his hand. "I have an ability that allows me to see the level of a person's strength. As long as it's a spiritual practitioner, they don't need to use their practitioner's arts to know their level. Of course, you can also report this ability to your master, Feng Tianhu." "You know?" Qingyi's eyes widened. She didn't expect Lin Yi to be able to guess that she was Feng Tianhu's person. She couldn't help but feel a little awkward. "Don't worry. I won't say anything. I didn't tell Feng Tianhu about the blood-clothed underworld sect helping to kill the Grand Elder of the Black Horse Gang. I only said that Han and I left, leaving you in the room. Then, the Grand Elder died." "Haha." Lin Yi smiled and didn't deny it. Since Qingyi decided to be honest, she naturally wouldn't be on the same side as Feng Tianhu. So this was reasonable. "Then why didn't you say that you knew that I was a practitioner and suspected me?" Qingyi didn't dwell on the previous topic. Lin Yi didn't say anything, which meant that Lin Yi didn't want to pursue this matter. This also meant that she had hope of getting Lin Yi's forgiveness. "I saw it, so I'm not sure." Lin Yi shook his head and explained. "With your strength, killing Feng Sanhuang and Su Shihan was a very easy thing to do. You didn't need to rely on outsiders. So, although I suspected that you led us into a dark alley that day, there were too many unexplainable things, so I'm not sure. So that's how it is." Qingyi was stunned and shook her head with a bitter smile. "Actually, Feng Tianhu wanted me to do it myself, but Xiao Han and I are from the same sect. Although I approached Xiao Han with a purpose, but, as time passed, the relationship between me and Xiao Han became deeper and deeper. When I was sure that Xiao Han was Feng Tianlin's illegitimate daughter, I couldn't do it anymore. Looks like you're not someone with a heart of stone. That means you can still be saved." Lin Yi nodded. This was also the reason why he let Qingyi live and didn't kill her. Qingyi was a loyal person. "Then how are you going to explain to Feng Tianhu?" "I'll say that I'm a celebrity, a public figure. After all, I make a living in the common world. If I kill someone myself, it'll be fine if they don't find out. But if they find out, then I'll have to run," Qingyi said. "I can't just run back to my family and sect like other cultivators. My identity is there, and Feng Tianhu also needs me to help him earn money in the common world." So he didn't hesitate and agreed to my suggestion. He sent someone else to kill Su Shihan, and I'll work with him from the inside. You're pretty smart. Lin Yi didn't think that Qingyi wasn't stupid. She came up with an excuse like this. Why do you work for Feng Tianhu? Chapter 32-37. Oh? Lin Yi was stunned. He didn't expect Qingyi to have a younger brother. Then he taught us how to cultivate. When I was 10 years old, my brother was taken away by Feng Tianhu, and we were separated. I was asked to be trained as a celebrity, and my brother never appeared in front of me again. Qingyi couldn't help but sigh as she said this. Feng Tianhu used your brother as a threat to force you to do things for him? Lin Yi suddenly understood. If that was the case, Qingyi had her own difficulties. She was swaying between her brother and her best sister. She couldn't bear to give up one of them. It seemed like he was lucky that he didn't kill her. So she had this kind of unknown pain. Yes. Chang'e nodded. Every once in a while, Feng Tianhu would send me pictures of my brother. He told me that my brother was living well and was still cultivating. But the more he did that, the more I felt uneasy. If I betrayed him, Feng Tianhu would definitely harm my brother. Then why did you choose to be honest with me? Lin Yi asked. Because I can't let Xiaohan shield me from the wind and rain because of my mistake. I don't want to hide it anymore, it's too painful for me. Qingyi shook her head and blinked her big eyes. And Feng Tianhu is afraid of you. Afraid of me? You know the truth. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. As expected, Qingyi needed something from him. Otherwise, she wouldn't have seduced him. It seemed like Qingyi was willing to risk it all for her brother. But Feng Tianhu doesn't know, Qingyi said matter-of-factly. I'll help you ask what's going on. Lin Yi sighed and said, This is a bit troublesome. Feng Tianhu might not let you go so easily. What do you mean? Qingyi was slightly stunned. Feng Tianhu is a sinister person. You don't know that. Lin Yi waved his hand and explained. He's a person who will do anything to achieve his goals. If he could kill his own son to frame Feng Shipian, then you can imagine what kind of person he is. What I'm afraid of is that if I don't ask, Feng Tianhu will have a hostage. He won't be afraid of me doing anything to him. Chang'e was shocked. Lin Yi's analysis was very reasonable. It could be said that he accurately grasped Feng Tianhu's personality. This meant that if Lin Yi asked this, it would mean that she and Lin Yi had some sort of agreement. Feng Tianhu could use her brother to threaten Lin Yi, so that Lin Yi wouldn't dare to do anything to him. So, I can only ask Feng Shipian about this and see if he knows. If I ask Feng Tianhu, not only will he not return your brother, but he will also use it to threaten you and do something even worse. Lin Yi said. I'm sorry, I was too naive. Qingyi was too worried. She just thought that Feng Tianhu was afraid of Lin Yi, but she didn't think that if Feng Tianhu had a hostage, it would be equivalent to having a life-saving talisman. Would he let go so easily? That was obviously not the case. I'll ask Feng Shipian first, Lin Yi said. And Qingyi quickly nodded. He dialed up Feng Shipian's number. Boss? Feng Shipian was already asleep, but when his phone rang, he saw that it was Lin Yi's number and immediately picked it up. What's up? Shipian, first of all, you can tell your father that Xiaohan's mother has been found, but don't let anyone else know, do you understand? Lin Yi said. Found? Feng Shipian was startled. He didn't think that Su Shihan's mother, his father's old lover, had been found. This was good news, and it could solve one of his father's problems. As for telling others, Feng Shipian wasn't stupid. Don't worry, boss, I won't say anything. If my mother finds out, she might cause trouble again. As long as you know. Lin Yi nodded. Feng Tianhu already knew about this, but Lin Yi wanted to hide it from Dongfang Xiaocui. Lin Yi didn't want the Dongfang family's people to get involved. After all, Lin Yi's strength wasn't real. If too many people came, it would be exposed sooner or later. Of course, there was no need to tell this to Feng Shipian. He continued, She is the old dean of Songzhan Orphanage, but it's good that your father knows. Don't do anything for now, or it will be exposed. I understand. Feng Shipian nodded. One more thing, just now, Feng Tianhu found a great elder of the Black Horse Society to assassinate the old dean. Linny said. My third uncle? He found someone from the Black Horse Society. The great elder of the Black Horse Society. Wouldn't that be a peak late phase heaven class master? What happened to him? Feng Shipian was shocked and quickly asked. Dead, Linny said. The old dean is fine, don't worry. That's good, boss is the best. Feng Shipian was very surprised at how a Sky class late phase peak master died, but there were rumors in the ancient times that Linny could instantly kill Sky class late phase peak masters. It seemed like the rumors were true. One last thing, do you know Chang'e? Linny asked. Chang'e? I know her, my sister's junior sister. Feng Shipian knew that Su Shihan was his sister, so he often paid attention to her news. Naturally, he knew about Chang'e. No, I'm talking about Chang'e's other identity, Linny said. What other identity does Chang'e have? Feng Shipian paused, not understanding what Linny meant. She's a chess piece of Feng Tianhu. Linny saw that Feng Shipian didn't know about Chang'e, so he explained. No, Chang'e has turned to the light, but her brother is in Feng Tianhu's hands. Can you help me ask around? Her brother? That's fine, what's his name? If he's in our ancient Feng family, then there's hope. If he's not, then there's nothing I can do, Feng Shipian said. And what's your brother's name? Linny turned to look at Chang'e. Chang'e ran. Chang'e said. He's 2 years younger than me. He should be 16 this year. I heard that he just reached the early phase heaven class master. Chang'e ran, 16 years old, early phase heaven class master. Linny said. Chapter 32-38. Why? Linny paused. Ancient Feng family, I'm the only heaven class master among the younger generation. 16 years old. Younger than me, how could I not know? Feng Shipian explained with a bitter smile. I see. All right, then help me keep an eye out. Linny frowned. It seemed like Feng Tianhu hid Chang'e Ran. But Linny was a bit puzzled. How did Feng Tianhu control Chang'e Ran? Logically speaking, Chang'e Ran's strength was already very powerful. She could totally escape and not be controlled by Feng Tianhu. No problem, I will definitely keep an eye out for you, Feng Shipian said. If I directly kill my way to the ancient Feng family and kill Feng Tianhu, do you have the confidence to find that Chang'e Ran? Linny pondered for a moment and asked. No, Feng Shipian quickly said. No? Why? Linny paused. Boss, within the Feng family, competition is not forbidden. This was tacitly agreed by my grandfather. Now that everyone knows that you are my boss, if you come to the Feng family and kill my third uncle, then it will be very difficult for me. Colluding with outsiders to assassinate a family member, I will be kicked out of the ancient Feng family. Feng Shipian smiled bitterly. Feng Tianhu can just find someone to assassinate Su Shihan? Linny asked back. That's in the dark. To be honest, the ancient Feng family has never acknowledged my sister's identity. If she dies, my grandfather won't say anything. But boss, if you come directly to the family, that's different. Feng Shipian was a kind person. He definitely wouldn't do something like this. Then we'll talk about it later. Linny shook his head. Actually, even if Linny went to look for Feng Tianhu, with this guy's ruthlessness, he might not be able to tell him where Chang'e Ran was hiding. Linny was just saying it casually, he didn't have absolute confidence that he could defeat the ancient Feng clan. Once he attacked the ancient Feng clan, it would arouse the fear of the ancient Dongfang clan and the Everyday Sun sect. If the three clans joined forces, he would be finished. After hanging up the phone, Linny looked at the disappointed Chang'e and comforted her. Don't worry. This matter has to be done step by step. Your brother is in Feng Tianhu's hands, so he shouldn't be in danger. For the time being, you just need to feign civility with him. Discuss with me what he wants you to do, and I'll tell you what to do. All right. Qingyi thought about it. It was true. After so many years, a little more time wouldn't make a difference. Also, Lenny was right. As long as she was still working for Feng Tianhu had no reason to do anything to Feng Shipian. Let Feng Shipian find out about Qingyiran's whereabouts first. It wouldn't be too late for Lin Yi to make a move then. So he said, "Just now, Feng Tianhu called and asked me to spy on you and test your attitude to see if you have any intention of doing anything to Feng Tianhu." Oh? Lin Yi was slightly stunned. He didn't think that Feng Tianhu's intention was involved in the previous matter. It seemed that Qingyi listened to half of Feng Tianhu's suggestion. After thinking about it, Lin Yi said, "Then tell him that you didn't succeed. I was slightly injured today, and I just leveled up, so I didn't that with you. But you've already made a good impression on me, so I won't do anything to him for the time being. Because I asked for Feng Shipian's opinion, just tell him what Feng Shipian said." "Okay, I understand." Qingyi blushed and nodded. "Okay, go back and call Feng Tianhu. Rest early and don't think too much." Lin Yi comforted her. "Okay." Qingyi nodded and stood up. But she didn't leave. She hesitated for a moment, then suddenly leaned down and kissed Lin Yi's forehead like a chick pecking rice. The scenery of her chest was reflected in Lin Yi's eyes again. Actually, with Lin Yi's strength, he could have completely avoided it, but Qingyi didn't have any bad intentions, and Lin Yi was still a little reluctant, so he accepted it. Qingyi saw that Lin Yi didn't avoid it and was a little happy, but she didn't dare to take another step. She was afraid that Lin Yi would chase her away, so she ran out of Lin Yi's room first. Lin Yi looked at Qingyi's back and shook his head. In fact, Qingyi wasn't a scheming girl. After Qingyi returned to her room, she dialed Feng Tianhu's number. So fast? Feng Tianhu had been holding the phone, waiting for Qingyi's news. Otherwise, he wouldn't feel at ease and couldn't sleep. If Lin Yi really wanted to deal with him, he would have to think about how to escape. "Yeah. I took off my clothes, and Lin Yi was a bit interested in my body. But he was injured today, and he'd just broken through. He needed to stabilize his strength, so he just hugged me and talked. He didn't do anything else," Qingyi reported to Feng Tianhu. She didn't hide anything and used a narrative tone. "Oh? Lin Yi was injured and broke through?" Feng Tianhu was surprised. "Yes, Lin Yi fought with the Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Gang and was injured, but he also broke through to the peak of the early phase of Heaven rank," Qingyi said. "Mother asterisk cur," Feng Tianhu cursed. "An early phase of Heaven rank could kill a peak of the late phase of Heaven rank, and now that he broke through, wouldn't he be able to instantly kill a peak of the late phase of Heaven rank? I don't know about that. Let's not talk about the fact that Lin Yi is only interested in my body. He doesn't really like me. Even if he really likes me, he might not tell me the limit of his strength," Qingyi said. It was reasonable for her to say so, which made Feng Tianhu even more confused and bewildered. "That's right." Feng Tianhu nodded. "Then does Lin Yi know that I was the one who dealt with him?" "Yes, the Supreme Elder of the Black Horse Gang betrayed you before he died," Qingyi said. "What? This old thing, the Supreme Elder? He's not reliable at all." Feng Tianhu was so angry that he cursed. Why did he have to drag someone down with him after he died? However, he still hurriedly asked, "Did Lin Yi want to cause trouble for me?" "Yes, but he called Feng Shipian. Lin Yi said that he wanted to kill his way to your door and settle the score with you, but Feng Shipian stopped him," Qingyi said. "Why?" Feng Tianhu was a little puzzled. His nephew actually wanted to protect him? Chapter 32-39. "That's right, our ancient Feng family is indeed like that." Feng Tianhu nodded. "So, colluding with outsiders to assassinate a family member will result in being kicked out of the ancient Feng family." Qingyi said the same. "Ha ha!" Feng Tianhu laughed. "Did Lin Yi agree?" "Yes, this phone call was made in front of me," Qingyi said. That's good, that's good. Feng Tianhu let out a sigh of relief. You did well. Don't worry, I'll take some recent photos of Iran and send them to you. You'll be a spy next to Lin Yi. If Lin Yi does anything strange, you have to tell me immediately, especially if it's about me. Okay, thank you, boss. Cheng Yi pretended to be grateful. No need to thank me, I know you hate me in your heart. We'll just take what we need. Feng Tianhu said indifferently. And Lin Yi is a talented young man. You won't lose anything by following him. It should be fun to show off. To be honest, I don't have a way out. If I knew Lin Yi would be like this, I would have let Nian recognize him as the boss long ago. Would it even be Feng Shishan's turn? Qingyi didn't say anything and hung up. The next morning, Qingyi went to eat breakfast with Su Shihan. Obviously, Su Shihan didn't know that Qingyi was a spy. Qingyi wanted to say something a few times, but just when she was about to speak, she saw Lin Yi walk into the orphanage's cafeteria. He shook his head at Qingyi, signaling her not to say anything for now. Qingyi couldn't help but blush. She remembered what happened last night, but she listened to Lin Yi. Lin Yi said to wait, so she'll wait. The misunderstanding between Qingyi and Su Shihan could be easily solved between the two of them, but with the dean here, it wouldn't be good. The dean would be angry because she didn't understand the relationship between Qingyi and Su Shihan. Therefore, it was better to wait until they went back. It was better to be happy in the orphanage. Old Dean, I called Feng Shipian yesterday. He will tell Uncle Tianlin your identity. However, Uncle Tianlin might only make a phone call. It's not convenient for him to come over right now, Lin Yi said. I understand. It's already good enough that I was able to make a phone call. The old dean, on the other hand, appeared very calm and not very agitated. After so many years, it was clear that she had already gotten over it. Lin Yi nodded and didn't say anything else. After all, this was someone else's family matter. After breakfast, Lin Yi, Su Shihan, and Qingyi said goodbye to the dean and the others, returning to Donghai City. When they got home, Qingyi dragged Su Shihan upstairs to talk about business. Yushu and Han Jingjing, on the other hand, sat on the sofa and chatted. Seeing that Lin Yi came back, Yushu pulled Lin Yi and asked him about the interesting things in Songshan. Lin Yi roughly told them about the Grand Elder of the Black Horse Gang and the Blood Cloak Yellow Spring sect. Lin Yi didn't need to hide anything from Yushu and Jingjing. It was a shocking story, and it made Yushu and Jingjing feel lucky. After that, Yushu went to watch TV. Han Jingjing, on the other hand, went to talk to Lin Yi about the second-level automatic cauldron. Lin Yi bro, Jingjing's research on the second-level automatic cauldron is almost done. The only problem now is that only a second-level refiner can use it, Han Jingjing said as she took out a cauldron from Lin Yi's cabinet. Han Jingjing took advantage of Lin Yi's absence to take over Lin Yi's room and started researching the cauldron, waiting for Lin Yi to come back. Oh? Isn't a second-level automatic cauldron for a second-level refiner? Could it be for a first-level refiner to use? This doesn't match. Lin Yi looked at Han Jingjing with some doubts. He didn't understand what she meant. No, Lin Yi bro, in fact, you have to know that our first-level automatic cauldron is so popular because of its low threshold. As long as you can condense the alchemy fire, you can use it with the automatic cauldron to refine a first-level medicinal pill. However, the second-level automatic cauldron is different. The person who uses it is a second-level refiner, and the threshold to become a second-level refiner is much higher than condensing the alchemy fire, Han Jingjing said. It's impossible to become a second-level refiner if you can only condense the alchemy fire, Han Jingjing said. It is impossible to become a second-grade alchemist if you can only condense alchemy fire. Second-grade alchemists are cultivators of fire and with dual attributes, and most of these people's alchemy level is not low. Although it can't be said that they have a 100% success rate, but their dependence on the second-grade automatic medicinal cauldron is certainly not as big as the first-grade automatic medicinal cauldron, and there is a crucial problem, that is, the number of second-grade alchemists is limited. There are only so many. After we sell our medicinal cauldron to them, it is impossible to have sales again. unless the medicinal cauldron in their hands is broken. This is true. After listening, Lin suddenly realized that what Han Jingjing said was not unreasonable. Under the cute and quiet appearance, Lu Jinghan was a business genius. She had analyzed all these things. Lin Yi was not good at business, so naturally, he didn't think as much as Han Jingjing. So, if our second-level automatic cauldron can be given to the first-level alchemist, even ordinary cultivators can use it, there will definitely be a surge in sales, Han Jingjing said. The theory is reasonable, but I'm afraid it will be difficult to realize. Lin Yi shook his head and said, Not everyone is like Han Jingjing. You mean, let those who condense the alchemy fire cultivate to the second-level alchemy fire, and then use this cauldron? This is a good idea. Han Jingjing's eyes lit up. Lin Yi bro is more thoughtful than Jingjing. It is not difficult to let them cultivate, and there is no requirement for the success rate of alchemy. As long as they can condense the second-level alchemy fire, it is enough. Jingjing. You say that, I am a little ashamed. Lin Yi smiled bitterly and said, If I didn't know that you are Lu Jinghan, I would really think that you are praising me with your character, but you are Lu Jinghan. How can I think of it, and you don't? Chapter 3240. Lin Yi was taken aback by Han Jingjing's seriousness, but he still nodded. Maybe I'm thinking from the perspective of a practitioner, and you're thinking from the perspective of a businessman, so we're thinking from different perspectives. Yeah, if that's the case, we can throw in a guidebook on how to condense a second-level fire. As long as the alchemists who can condense a first-level fire increase their fire level, they'll be able to use a second-level cauldron. Han Jingjing nodded. Then, Lin Yi was about to say that they'll follow this train of thought, but before he could finish his sentence, his phone rang. It was Kang Xiaobo. Lin Yi gestured to Han Jingjing to wait, and picked up the phone. Xiaobo, what's up? Boss, Little Peach brought me an important message. The Sky Elixir sect is preparing to mass-produce first-level cauldrons, Xiaobo said. The Sky Elixir sect's first-level automatic cauldrons aren't cheap right now, and Miracle Dr. Guan's cauldrons can be lowered at any time. Kang Xiaoming's worried that we won't be able to beat them in the next step, so he's planning to use a price war to beat them. That's why he's planning to mass-produce them to lower the cost. Oh? Lin Yi was startled. He didn't expect Kang Mingming to be so smart. However, this intelligence wasn't used in the right place. Lin Yi was prepared to give up on the first-level cauldron market. After all, the market would soon be saturated. Even if new alchemists and disciples bought them, there wouldn't be too many. Mass production like Kang Mingming would indeed stimulate sales. After all, the price was cheaper, and some sects would buy a few to save for a rainy day. However, it was almost impossible to sell them all at once. There needed to be a long digestion process. Xiaobo, how about this? Let Little Peach spread the news that our cauldrons are indeed going to be discounted, Lin Yi said after some thought. Last time, Zhao Ming had used Lu Tianli as a hostage and made a fool out of him. It pissed Lin Yi off, but because of Han Jingjing, Lin Yi couldn't just ignore Lu Tianli. He could only suffer in silence. But now that Zhao Ming had sent himself to his doorstep, Lin Yi would make him suffer in silence. The Sky Elixir sect had made a lot of money from the first-level cauldrons, and it wasn't any less than Lin Yi. After all, Kang Ningning's cauldrons were updated very quickly. This kind of fake price and service would naturally be very popular, taking up half of the market. However, Lin Yi was going to make him lose as much as he earned. I got it. Kang Xiaobo didn't ask why and just nodded. He was ready to carry out Lin Yi's plan. After all, the cauldrons weren't sold through the medical company's channels. Kang Xiaobo didn't need to ask too much. After hanging up the call with Kang Xiaobo, Lin Yi turned to Han Jingjing and said, Don't develop any smart functions for the second-level cauldrons. It will be the same as the first-level cauldrons. Only a second-level alchemist who can control the temperature of the cauldron will work. The automatic version will be delayed for now. Ah? Okay. Han Jingjing paused and nodded. She immediately understood what Lin Yi meant. Lineage doesn't want the second-level cauldron to affect the sales of the first-level cauldrons, right? That's right. If those alchemists who can activate the first-level alchemy fire can refine the second-level elixir after a little practice, then who would refine this kind of first-level elixir with poor effects? Linny nodded and said, after the second-level cauldron is launched, sell the first-level cauldron at a discount. Don't worry about the sales of the second-level cauldron for the time being. Adopt the strategy of starvation sales. Only sell them at the auction and not in the company. Okay. Han Jingjing completely listened to Lin Yi's arrangement. In this way, Kong Mingming won't be on guard against the second-level cauldron. He will think that it's not easy for us to make it. Moreover, the sales will be low and the demand will be high. This will also give him enough time to spend a lot of money to research the second-level cauldron. Then, when he is almost done, we will directly replace it. That's right. Directly replace the chip's circuit board inside and let him crack it for nothing. Linny said. Okay, Jing Jing understands. Han Jingjing replied. In the following days, Han Jingjing returned to Yanjing City under the identity of Lu Jinghan. She began to busy herself with the matters related to the second-level cauldron's launch. Linny also welcomed the first final exam of his university days. However, Linny was a person who Boss Bai specially approved to not participate in the final exam. This made Bai Wei Tuo and the others very envious. However, Linny still participated in the exam. It was just that he hadn't seen Wang Xinyan for a long time. He wanted to take the opportunity of the final exam to see her. To be honest, it had been a while since they separated. Linny still missed Wang Xinyan. After all, they slept on the same bed for so many days and nights. Linny also had a lot of feelings for Wang Xinyan. However, Linny didn't have any reason to let Wang Xinyan go to his villa now. At the entrance of the exam hall, Linny just happened to see Tiger Right and Xiaolong walking over together. The two also saw Linny, and their eyes were a little evasive. After all, Linny was now famous in the ancient world. With the level of the hidden house Yu, they weren't a match for Linny at all. However, since he saw him, he couldn't not greet him. Tiger Right knew that he might not be able to shake Linny in this lifetime. Not to mention him, even Xiaolong's big brother, Kong Mingming, had a headache when he saw Linny. What else could he do? He could just act like a grandson. Ah, isn't this Boss Linny? It's been a long time, I've missed you. Right Coiling Tiger greeted him with a smile on his face. Oh, Tiger Right, what are you looking for me for? Don't tell me you have something good for me again? Lin Yi's heart moved slightly, and he thought of an idea. Ah? Good stuff. I don't have anything that's good enough for you, Boss Lin Yi. Tiger Right felt a chill in his heart. Could it be that he had shown off too much before, and now that Lin Yi was strong, he came to take advantage of him? Chapter 32:41. Lin Yi looked at the Right Coiling Tiger's flickering eyes. How could he not guess what he was thinking? In fact, Lin Yi really didn't want to put the Right family to death. After all, the Right family had some relationship with the Heavenly Elixir Sect's young master, Silkworm Change, and Silkworm Change was a person that Lin Yi respected and was grateful to. Therefore, Lin Yi didn't want Silkworm Change to be in a difficult position. Therefore, even though Lin Yi knew that the hidden Right family had a third-grade medicine cauldron, he didn't snatch it. This was a matter of his principles. Right Coiling Tiger, I heard that your family has a lot of medicine cauldrons. Lin Yi narrowed his eyes and asked. Ah? There's only one third-grade medicine cauldron. Right Coiling Tiger was shocked and said subconsciously. I didn't ask you about third-grade medicine cauldrons. Are there a lot of second-grade ones? Asked Lin Yi. Second grade, there are indeed a lot of them. Right Coiling Tiger was relieved. Although he didn't know what Lin Yi meant, it was fine as long as Lin Yi didn't want a third-grade medicine cauldron. Second-grade medicine cauldron didn't matter. Although the cost wasn't low, it couldn't be compared to a third-grade medicine cauldron. How many? Asked Lin Yi. A few dozen. Boss Lin Yi, what do you want? Right Coiling Tiger was somewhat inexplicable. He didn't know why Linny cared about the number of second-grade medicine cauldrons. "Oh, sell them all to me," said Linny. "Sell them to you? Why do you want to buy second-grade medicine cauldrons?" Right Coiling Tiger was even more puzzled. Why did Linny buy so many second-grade medicine cauldrons? "I say, Boss Linny, if you need one or two, I can give them to you. There's no use for you to buy so many second-grade medicine cauldrons. These things aren't easy to break, right? Why are you talking so much nonsense? Are you selling or not? Just say it," asked Linny with a frown. Right Coiling Tiger saw Linny frown and thought to himself, "Not good. Is this guy angry?" Thinking of this, Right Coiling Tiger could only say, "Sell it, why wouldn't I sell it? This thing is not a rare resource. In fact, the Heavenly Elixir sect also consigns a lot of second-grade cauldrons to the Cultivators Trade Association. They sell them for 50 million each. Just give me 30 million each." Speaking of this, Yupanhu looked at Linny carefully. After all, 30 million was indeed a capital. The Yu family bought it from the Heavenly Elixir sect at this price. Yupanhu really didn't dare to ask for an exorbitant price from Linny. However, if he didn't ask, he was afraid that Linny wouldn't even give him 30 million. In fact, if Linny didn't pay, he could only accept it. Who dared to provoke Linny? 30 million? Okay, how much? Linny didn't bargain with him. After all, 30 million was considered cheap compared to the price of Lin Yi's second-grade cauldrons. Around 30. Boss Linny, why don't you give me 1 billion and I'll give all of them to you? Maybe 35 or 36. Right Coiling Tiger saw that Linny didn't bargain and breathed a sigh of relief. He took the initiative to give some to Linny. Okay. Linny nodded and said, "Tell my family that I'll send Wuchitian to get it now." "Oh, okay." Right Coiling Tiger nodded and quickly went to call his family. Jiaolong, on the other hand, stood at the side and didn't say a word. He frowned slightly. What was the use of Linny buying so many second-grade cauldrons? From Jiaolong's point of view, Linny didn't buy these cauldrons for his own use. Linny didn't need so many cauldrons. If it wasn't for his own use, was he going to sell them? But this market had always been controlled by the Sky Elixir sect, and Linny just bought them and then sold them. What profit was there to speak of? Could it be that it had something to do with first-grade cauldrons? Was it used to develop second-grade cauldrons? Only research could use up so many cauldrons. Otherwise, they wouldn't break if they were just used for elixirs. Jiaolong had to admit that Jiaolong was quite smart. He could guess the general direction, but he didn't know that Linny was using these cauldrons to make the first batch of second-grade cauldrons. Jiaolong had fallen into a misconception. He thought that Linny could use other materials to replace first-grade cauldrons, but it didn't mean that he couldn't use other materials to replace second-grade cauldrons. Linny bought these 30 or so cauldrons to experiment, to find a replacement. After all, if Linny wanted to mass-produce, how could 30 or so cauldrons be enough? Once Linny produced the cauldrons, the raw materials would be stuck in the hands of the Sky Elixir sect. If the Sky Elixir sect stopped producing second-grade cauldrons, then Lin Yi's first-grade cauldrons would have to stop production as well. If that happened, then Linny would have to share some of the profits with the Sky Elixir sect. Otherwise, the Sky Elixir sect might as well fight to the death. This way, the Sky Elixir sect wouldn't have to waste their energy trying to replicate the cauldrons. They could just ask Linny for a share of the profits. However, Xiaolong would still tell Kong Mingming about this and have him prepare the necessary measures. "Xiaolong, why are you still here?" Linny looked at Xiaolong and asked faintly. "Didn't you say that you weren't coming?" You guys have final exams, and I have to hand in my final paper." "Of course, I have to come to Boss Bai's class," Xiaolong said unnaturally. Actually, he saw that Linny wasn't coming to school recently, so he thought that he could take advantage of this opportunity to chase after Wang Xinyan. At first, he thought that Linny wouldn't be happy if he found out, but with Kong Mingming, the elder of the Sky Elixir sect, Linny wouldn't be able to kill him even if he was unhappy. But recently, there were rumors that Linny could not only kill Sky class masters at the peak of the late phase, but he could even kill Sky-class masters at the peak of the late phase. His strength had reached an unimaginable level. "Oh, I hope you're not here to harass my girlfriend." Lin Yi looked at Zhao Long and said faintly. "That? Of course not." Zhao Long's face turned green from anger at Lin Yi's words. "What do you mean, your girlfriend? She's my fiancée, all right?" But Zhao Long didn't dare to refute. He could only swallow his anger and say, "Then, if there's nothing else, I'll be leaving. Goodbye." Lin Yi turned and entered the classroom. Zhao Long was here to find Wang Xinyan, but Lin Yi was here, so he turned and left. He also had to report to Kang Mingming. Lin Yi sent a text to Wu Qingtian, asking him to take 1 billion from Han Jingjing to buy a second-level cauldron from the hidden house Yu. Lin Yi also sent a text to Han Jingjing, saying that the first batch of second-level cauldrons would be made from real cauldrons. Han Jingjing listened to Lin Yi's suggestion and naturally agreed. This way, when the second-level cauldrons hit the market, they could make Kang Mingming of the Sky Elixir sect lower his guard and trick him into thinking that he was going to supply Lin Yi with another batch of second-level cauldrons that couldn't be sold. Chapter 3242. Although Qingtian was from the common house Wu, the hidden house Yu didn't dare offend him or lie to him. The second-grade cauldrons they gave him were all real. After all, Qingtian's identity in House Wu wasn't anything special, but he was Lin Yi's follower. Who would dare offend someone related to Lin Yi now? Lin Yi had killed a Sky-class late-phase peak full mastery for a person he was protecting. Couldn't he do the same for his follower Wu Qingtian? There was a precedent, too. Didn't the common house Yu and the hidden house Zhao fall just like that? When the hidden house Yu handed over the second-grade cauldrons to Qingtian, Zhao Long called Kang Mingming. "Brother? What's up?" Ever since Kang Mingming became the son-in-law of the elder of Xianqin, his vision had broadened and he wouldn't fight with Zhao Long for the head of the house. The relationship between the two brothers had improved quite a bit. Now, both of them were working for the benefit of House Kang. "Zhao Ming, I met Lin Yi in school," Zhao Long said directly. "Lin Yi went to school? What did he do?" Kang Mingming was very sensitive to the name Lin Yi. He asked immediately when he heard Lin Yi's name. "I think he went for the final exam, but he revealed something important. He bought more than 30 second-grade cauldrons from Yu Coiling Tiger," Zhao Long said. "Bought second-grade cauldrons from Yu Coiling Tiger? Why does he need so many second-grade cauldrons?" Kang Mingming didn't know how to react. "I'm not too sure, but according to my guess, maybe Lin Yi started working on second-grade automatic cauldrons. Why else would he buy so many second-grade cauldrons? There's no need for so many cauldrons to make pills. These things don't break easily," Zhao Long analyzed. "Brother, you're right." Kang Mingming was enlightened by Zhao Long's words. "If you didn't remind me, I'd still be guessing for a while. Does that mean that Lin Yi has started researching second-level automatic cauldrons? It's possible. After all, with the competition from your heavenly elixir sect, their profits will only get smaller and smaller. If they don't develop new products, how can they maintain their market superiority?" Zhao Long said. "And I'm guessing that they've basically run out of resources to upgrade and encrypt first-grade cauldrons. There won't be any new breakthroughs, so they're probably planning to give up on this market. After a while, maybe they'll start a promotion. High-price promotion. Haha, I've thought about it. Plus, I got news from my spy today that Lin Yi is planning on lowering his prices for first-grade automatic cauldrons. But if he has a plan, I have a plan. I've already started mass-producing first-grade automatic cauldrons." Kang Mingming laughed. "Don't worry, bro. I'll destroy Lin Yi's company. Let's see if he still has the heart to steal your girl." "Oh? I'll be counting on you then." Zhao Long let out a breath of relief when he heard that Kang Mingming already had a plan. Lin Yi entered the classroom to see Wang Xinyan sitting at her familiar desk, reading a book. The exam was right around the corner, and Xinyan wasn't trying to cram for it. She was a girl who liked to read, after all. Usually, other than chatting with Lin Yi and Han Jingjing, she'd be reading alone in her seat. Lin Yi walked over and sat beside Xinyan. Sun Yan frowned slightly when she felt someone sitting beside her. She didn't look over, her eyes still on her book. Lin Yi smiled faintly. It seemed like Xiaolong had been harassing Sun Yan quite a bit lately, but Sun Yan didn't pay attention to him at all. Sun Yan clearly thought of him as Xiaolong now. Sun Yan, how have you been? Lin Yi asked. Ah? Sun Yan's body shook as she turned her head, her eyes filled with shock and joy. She hadn't expected Lin Yi to appear in school all of a sudden. To tell the truth, Sun Yan had been missing Lin Yi a lot lately. She'd been able to get some news about Lin Yi from Han Jingjing when she still came to school, but Han Jingjing hadn't been coming to school recently, and Sun Yan had lost her source of information. She wanted to give Lin Yi a call or go to Lin Yi's house, but she couldn't muster up the courage. After all, she couldn't help Lin Yi now. Sun Yan didn't know if she could still be with Lin Yi in the future. She couldn't help Lin Yi with his training, and she felt guilty. She helped Lin Yi a little, but Lin Yi had to go to Snowy Valley to beg for treasures for her. She almost let Tang Yin down. She felt sorry for Lin Yi, and so she didn't contact Lin Yi recently. At first, Sun Yan thought that he'd forgotten about her as time went on. Even the most intimate of two people would become estranged from each other. That little bit of warmth and tenderness in her memories would become a beautiful memory. But Lin Yi was there, sitting next to her just like how he used to do every day in school. At that moment, Sun Yan had the illusion that Lin Yi had never disappeared in the first place. It was as if the last time he'd sat here was yesterday. Kang Xiaolong has been bothering you lately, right? Lin Yi said apologetically. I've been too busy recently, and I didn't come to school. I chased him away at the gate just now. Not really. I've been ignoring him. Sun Yan explained subconsciously. I know. Lin Yi nodded. Don't bother with him next time. Just chase him away when he comes. I told him that you're my girlfriend, and he didn't say anything. Ah? Sun Yan blushed. She couldn't believe it. He's scared of you now? Yeah. Even the ancients are scared of me now. Lin Yi wasn't too happy about it. He sighed. At least they won't do anything to you right now, and they won't force you. But I don't know how long this will last. What do you mean? Sun Yan blinked, not understanding what Lin Yi meant. Lin Yi didn't hide anything, and told Sun Yan everything that had happened recently. Lin Yi came early, and there was no one in the classroom yet. He wasn't worried about eavesdropping. Chapter 32-43. But Sun Yan was a little jealous that two big stars were living in Lin Yi's house. She didn't think much of it when Meng Yao and Shu were there, but two other women moving in all of a sudden. Sun Yan didn't feel comfortable at all. But she didn't say anything. She knew that Lin Yi was a loyal person, and Feng Shipian was his follower. Lin Yi couldn't reject him when he asked to protect Su Shihan. But Sun Yan wasn't a scheming girl. She said impulsively, Why don't I move back as well? Ah? This time, it was Lin Yi's turn to be startled. He didn't think that Sun Yan would make such a request. To tell the truth, Lin Yi approved of Sun Yan going back. After all, they were used to living here. Sun Yan, Yao Yao, and Shu got along well. Now, although Su Shihan and Qingyi were at home, they were still a bit lacking compared to Shu. Su Shihan and Qingyi were in the same room, and Yushu was alone in the room. She would be lonely, and Lin Yi thought that Shu would be quite happy if Sun Yan went back. What I mean is, aren't you Earth Class Early Phase Peak? If I help you, will you be able to break through to Earth Class Mid Phase in a short amount of time? If you reach Earth Class Mid Phase, you might be able to kill Sky Class Late Phase Peak in one hit. At that time, you won't have to worry. Sun Yan quickly explained. Actually, that was what she was thinking. That won't do. You know your body's condition. Right now, you're relying on the jade grass to maintain your body, but if I absorb more of your energy, your life will be in danger. Lin Yi shook his head decisively. It's good for you to come back and accompany Shu. Otherwise, Yao will be very lonely after leaving. Man, you're right. I didn't think that Yao was an inheritor as well. She left just like that. Sun Yan was emotional. She didn't think that Yao Yao would leave the villa in the blink of an eye. Sun Yan didn't say anything after hearing Lin Yi's rejection. After all, she couldn't change Lin Yi's decision. Sun Yan wanted to help Lin Yi, but she didn't want to cause trouble for Lin Yi. If her life was in danger, Lin Yi would do anything to help her. That wasn't what Sun Yan wanted. Then come back with me tonight. Lin Yi smiled. This time, Zhaoong won't come to your house anymore. Haha. Sun Yan smiled happily as well. The exam questions were easy for Lin Yi. Lin Yi had the right to be exempted, but he was just accompanying Sun Yan. Lin Yi's appearance pleased Boss Bai as well. Lin Yi had his privileges, but as a disciple, he had to follow the rules. Boss Bai was happy to see that. But what Lin Yi didn't expect was that on the second day after Sun Yan moved into the villa, Lin Yi received a call from Yang Qiqi. Bai Weituo walked over after the exam, excited to see Lin Yi. I say, Lin bro, where have you been all this time? I haven't seen you around, and my grandpa won't tell me? Bai Weituo asked curiously. Haha, it's nothing. There's a guest here, and I've been busy with her stuff. Lin Yi said. I see. Bai Weituo nodded. What are you planning to do this holiday? Himeiwa and I are planning to go side. Are you coming? Himeiwa was the one who suggested that Bai Weituo come to Lin Yi. According to Bai Weituo's thinking, Lin Yi must be very busy, and Lin Yi might not have the time. But Bai Weituo said that they were brothers, and it'd be more fun with more people. So, Bai Weituo decided to give it a try. Oh? Where are you guys going then? Lin Yi was pressed for time, but Bai Weituo was one of his best friends back in university, especially the grandson of Professor Bai. Lin Yi had a good relationship with him, so it wouldn't be a bad idea to go out with him if possible. We're planning to go to Southeast Asia. It's warmer there. Bai Weituo said. Himeiwa said that we're not familiar with that place, and it'd be more interesting if we had a few friends. If you're free, would you like to go too? Wang Xinyan blushed and turned to look at Lin Yi, but her eyes were filled with anticipation. Perhaps she wanted to go with Lin Yi? Let me check the time. Lin Yi knew that Su Shihan might not be in danger for the time being, but the orphanage's matter still made Lin Yi cautious. Who knew if Feng Tianhu would go crazy and find someone to deal with Su Shihan or the dean? Okay, if you want to go together, give me a call. Bai Weituo knew that Lin Yi was busy, so he didn't force it. Lin Yi said goodbye to Bai Weituo and returned to the villa with Wang Xinyan. Wang Xinyan was a little shy when she arrived at the familiar entrance. She knew that she would see Shu when she entered the door, but what should she say when Shu asked her why she came back? Could she say that she missed Lin Yi and wanted to sleep with Lin Yi? That would be too embarrassing, and Wang Xinyan couldn't say it. Oh, Xinyan sis, you're back. Yushu didn't know if she saw Wang Xinyan from the room or heard the car, but she ran out of the villa and said excitedly. Wang Xinyan was a little shy and awkward at first, but Yushu's words helped her out. Wang Xinyan suddenly felt like she had returned home. Shu, I'm so happy to see you. My body wasn't very good recently, so I didn't come back. I only found out today that Yao Yao had left. I felt bad that I couldn't send her off. Wang Xinyan sighed and said quietly, Meng Yao was still here the last time she came. There's no other way. Everyone has their own mission. Maybe she will leave one day, and then Shield Bro will be taken care of by Xinyan sis. Yushu smiled. Because Yushu said it with a smile, Wang Xinyan didn't think that Yushu was telling the truth. She thought that Yushu was joking, and her face turned red. Shu, don't make fun of me. Chapter 32-44. In actuality, Yushu was feeling the same way. Meng Yao was gone, and Lin Yi knew her secret. Sometimes she would drop her dumb facade. When she was alone with Lin Yi, she wouldn't make a fuss. She would read quietly in her room or watch TV in the living room, and she wouldn't do anything stupid. She didn't need to do it for Lin Yi to see, and she didn't need to hide her loneliness and confusion in front of Lin Yi. Meng Yao was gone, and she might have to leave as well. She didn't know what her life would be like in the future. She didn't know if she would have a chance to live after this Heaven Stage Island plan. Would she have a chance to be with Lin Yi, Meng Yao, Xiao Xiao, and Tang Yin again? Yushu didn't have a shred of confidence. Sometimes, the prophecy didn't work, the roulette of fate wasn't in her hands. Even Xiao Bro, who she had high hopes for, was only a small part of this grand plan. The Heaven Stage Island project, the gathering and getting to know each other before the inheritance, seemed to be a very big game of chess. Yushu didn't know who the players behind this chess game were. Perhaps she and Lin Yi were both pawns, or perhaps Lin Yi was the pawn that could turn the tides of the game. Everything was unknown. Yushu couldn't be happy every time she thought about it. That moment was near. Wang Xinyan moved into the villa smoothly. Shirhan had heard about Wang Xinyan from Yushu before, and she knew that Wang Xinyan was Lin Yi's girlfriend. She didn't have much of an intention to fight for Wang Xinyan. Shirhan did have feelings for Wang Xinyan, but she didn't dare do anything disrespectful in front of Wang Xinyan. She could tell that Lin Yi cared a lot about Wang Xinyan, but she didn't know why. At night, Wang Xinyan went upstairs to sleep with Shu. Lin Yi wanted to hug Xinyan to sleep as well, since she was the only girl he was close to, but Lin Yi was afraid that he'd accidentally suck Xinyan's energy away during his training, so he gave up. But what Lin Yi didn't expect was that the second day after Xinyan moved into the villa, Lin Yi got a call from Yang Qiqi. Lin Yi bro, I've asked around for you. There's a blue crystal being auctioned at Kristen's auction house on the 20th of this month. I've already gotten the rights to it. When are you coming over? Qiqi and Lin Yi were much closer now that they'd gotten to know each other. Before, Yang Qiqi had helped Lin Yi look for the blue crystal's whereabouts purely out of gratitude, but now it was her own business. She called Lin Yi the first thing she heard. There's news of his whereabouts? That's great! Lin Yi had always been concerned about crafting the jade space. Other than practicing, he could only focus on crafting. He didn't know how to concoct pills, and he didn't know how to do mending either. He'd just focus on crafting the jade space. Plus, the space was a little small right now. Lin Yi was pretty much done with the valuables he'd brought with him, and he didn't have enough space for the small stuff. Lin Yi had to leave some space to maneuver in case of emergencies, right? And when are you coming over? Qiqi's words were filled with tenderness towards Lin Yi. The girl who used to grit her teeth at the mention of Lin Yi was gone. The 20th, a few more days. I'll go as soon as I can, Lin Yi said. Right, I heard you're working as a bodyguard for a celebrity? Lil Jio said that she's arranged for an entertainment company to invite her over to discuss a movie. Qiqi said. Ah? A movie? Lin Yi blinked. Su Shirhan had always been in the music industry, and although she was a heavenly queen, she didn't have much in the film industry. This was because the ancient House Feng's influence was limited, and there weren't many people who could handle this. So, Shirhan had always been restricted in the music industry. Yeah, this company's special effects and professional post-production are done by Lil Jio's disciples. They have a lot of things to ask of Lil Jio, so the chairman of the company happily agreed to this request. With that, Qiqi said the name of a famous company. Lin Yi was a little surprised, but it made sense after thinking about it. This kind of entertainment company needed special effects and post-production. They needed to be unique, and they needed to hire professionals or outsource the work. After all, everyone had their own specialties. A company might be good at making movies, but the post-production might not be as good as these professional companies. That's good news. With this company supporting Shirhan, her acting career can take another step forward. Lin Yi nodded. Qiqi, on the other hand, didn't really mind the unknown stars. She didn't really care how many women Lin Yi had around him. This had to do with the environment she grew up in. Her father had a few wives, and one of them was a celebrity. Qiqi didn't really care, as long as Lin Yi was her AE bro, that was enough. After putting down the phone, Lin Yi gathered everyone in the living room. Lin Yi was going out, and naturally, he had to tell Shu and Xinyan. Lin Yi, you're going to Europe. Xinyan was a little disappointed after hearing Lin Yi's words. It seemed that the plan to go to Southeast Asia with Lin Yi was ruined. Lin Yi definitely couldn't go. Yeah, Sinyan, why don't you go with Shu? Lin Yi suggested. Sinyan was a little tempted, and she turned to Yushu with anticipation. Yushu wanted to go as well, but she couldn't. Yui had sent a message that the day of the plan was getting closer and closer. The people behind Yui had been talking frequently recently, and Yushu might have to leave soon. I'm not going, Sinyan sis, you and Shield bro go have fun. Don't worry about me. I'll stay at home. Maybe Yao Yao sis will come back? Yushu found an excuse for herself. You're not going. Sinyan was a little disappointed. If Yushu wasn't going, then she couldn't go. Then I'll stay at home with you. Lin Yi, why don't you go with Han? Chapter 32:45. Su Shihan, on the other hand, was confused. She didn't know if she should stay in the entertainment industry. She had found her mother, and her goal of becoming a superstar was achieved. These days, she had lost her goal in life. Lin Yi, I don't know what to do in the future. The reason I became a superstar was to find my mother. Now that my mother has been found, is there any meaning for me to continue being a superstar? Su Shihan hesitated for a long time and finally said what was in her heart. Xiaohan, I understand your feelings. Lin Yi wasn't surprised. He smiled and said, Actually, everyone has a goal when they do something. For example, I came to Songtan to protect Yao Yao. But later, I was no longer Yao Yao's bodyguard, but we became good friends. Until now, she is my girlfriend. What I do has exceeded the scope of work. It has become a kind of life. And you should be the same. Although you have achieved your goal of becoming a superstar, think about it. If you don't become a superstar, what will you do? You can't stay at home every day, right? Su Shihan heard Lin Yi's words and was stunned. She nodded. Yeah, if she didn't become a superstar, what would she do? Actually, you still have a goal in life. Your goal is to work hard to earn more money. Lin Yi smiled and said, Your mother put all her energy into developing the orphanage. Of course, this is one of the reasons why she looked for you in the beginning. But now, she has fallen in love with this career. Her orphanage needs money. If you can help her, I believe the old dean will be very happy, right? Yeah. Su Shihan heard Lin Yi's words and her eyes lit up. She never thought about these things before. Now that she thought about it, it was true. Her mother needed a lot of money, and the more prosperous her career was, the more money she could earn. At this moment, Su Shihan found her goal in life again. She couldn't help but feel grateful to Lin Yi. Thank you, Lin Yi. You are really a benefactor in my life. I am very happy to meet you. With you by my side, I feel very happy. Shihan's confession was very subtle, but everyone understood. Lin Yi wasn't surprised. He looked at Wang Xinyan, then at Shu, and sighed in relief when he didn't see any special expression on their faces. It seemed that Shu had a lot on her mind, and wouldn't reject anyone like she used to. Xinyan, on the other hand, had always been a quiet person. Even if she had something to say, she wouldn't say it aloud. She just accepted silently. The only time she resisted was with Xiaolong. So even a girl with a good personality could have a rebellious moment. Then get ready. We'll leave for Europe in a few days. Lin Yi nodded, and then he gazed at Cheng Yi and said, You can come with me. I can help you open up the overseas market, but you must give me half of your earnings as compensation. Lin Yi knew that Cheng Yi worked for Feng Tianhu. Her income was taken by Feng Tianhu, so he didn't hesitate to ask for half of her income. Let me think about it. Cheng Yi naturally knew that Lin Yi was taking money from her to subsidize the orphanage. Of course, she agreed in her heart, but she was afraid that Feng Tianhu wouldn't agree. Giving money to Lin Yi was better than giving it to Feng Tianhu. She needed to communicate with Feng Tianhu first. Shihan was stunned. She didn't think that Lin Yi would extort money from Cheng Yi. She and Cheng Yi were good sisters, and she didn't really care what Cheng Yi used the money for. She just felt that Lin Yi asking for half of her income was a bit too much. However, she couldn't say anything. After all, Lin Yi had his own considerations, and without Lin Yi's help, They couldn't open up the overseas market by themselves. After Qingyi returned to her room, she dialed Feng Tianhu's number. Is there any news? Feng Tianhu quickly picked up the phone and asked. It's like this, Lin Yi is going to Europe. Lin Yi is going to meet a friend, and his friend has a lot of power over there. He can convince XXX Entertainment Company to cooperate with Su Shihan, and let Su Shihan be the main character and make Su Shihan famous. Cheng-Yi said. TSK, this smelly bitch is so lucky. She can rely on such a big backer even though she's a B*TCH. Feng Tianhu was jealous and cursed. He knew what kind of company XXX Entertainment Company was. It was a super money-making kingdom. If they really supported Su Shihan, then it would only be a matter of time before Shihan became famous. At the same time, Feng Tianhu was a bit shocked. Was Lin Yi really a normal solo cultivator? How could he have so much power overseas? To be able to affect the decisions of such a big company, he must not be a normal person. Thinking up to here, Feng Tianhu was a bit unsatisfied. He asked the Black Horse Society to do something, but not only did it not work, he also wasted a large amount of deposit. He needed money right now, so he said to Qingyi, "Didn't you also do it with Lin Yi? He didn't give you any benefits? Or are you not as good as that bitch Su Shihan? The time I spent with Lin Yi was too short, but with my hard work, Lin Yi also said that he can let the other party support me, but he wants to take 50% of the income as a reward," Cheng-Yi said. 50%, it's a bit much, but it's not bad that you can get this. Not bad, Cheng-Yi, it seems that you didn't let Lin Yi do it for nothing, you have some ability. Feng Tianhu was instantly happy. This 50% was also for free. If Lin Yi didn't support Qingyi, she wouldn't even be able to cooperate with that company. She didn't even get 50%, so Feng Tianhu was very happy about the extra income. Listening to Feng Tianhu's vulgar words, Qingyi frowned slightly and sighed in her heart. It would be good if Lin Yi really did it, but then should I agree to it? Qingyi asked. Of course, why wouldn't you agree? Hurry up and agree. If there's anything good in the future, you can make the decision yourself. If you always come back to discuss with me, Lin Yi will be suspicious, Feng Tianhu said. Okay, I understand. Cheng-Yi nodded. Chapter 3246. 3 days later, Lin Yi brought Su Shihan and Qingyi to a place in Europe called Butterfly Town. Lin Yi spent a part of his childhood here. Stepping on this land again, Lin Yi was filled with emotions. The plane slowly landed in the city closest to Butterfly Town. This city was also the city where the auction house was located, Kristen City. In fact, Kristen City was very far from Butterfly Town. The most convenient way to get to Butterfly Town was by water, but it was slower, and Su Shihan and Qingyi might not be able to adapt to the life on a boat. So, Lin Yi bought the plane ticket to Kristen City directly. Of course, the auction would be held here. Butterfly Town was the place Lin Yi planned to go to after the auction. Su Shihan and Qingyi would be discussing business cooperation at that time, and Lin Yi could follow Yang Qiqi back to Butterfly Town to have a look. As soon as they got out of the airport, Lin Yi saw Yang Qiqi's cool little black silhouette. She was standing at the arrival gate, looking over anxiously. Seeing Lin Yi, she ran over happily. "Lin Yi, big bro!" With that, she gave Lin Yi a hug. She hugged Lin Yi like an octopus, not letting go. Yang Qiqi was a practitioner, and she didn't care much about how the outside world looked at her. Plus, she was sure that Lin Yi was her big bro, so it was natural for them to be intimate. After all, Lin Yi and Yang Qiqi had a lot of physical contact when they were young. It was nothing. Su Shihan and Qingyi had never met Yang Qiqi before, but they knew on the plane that Yang Qiqi was Lin Yi's childhood sweetheart, so they didn't have any hostility towards her. "Shao Qi, we have friends here. You're hugging me like a tree bear. What about the others?" Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Yang Qiqi listened to Lin Yi and jumped down from Lin Yi. She turned to Su Shihan and Qingyi, embarrassed. "You guys are Su Shihan and Qingyi, right? Welcome, it's nice to meet you guys." I have an aunt who's also a celebrity, so I think we'll have a good time together. Yang Qiqi clearly thought that Su Shihan and Qingyi were Lin Yi's women. Otherwise, why would Lin Yi protect them and help them arrange the show? Su Shihan and Qingyi were a little surprised, and a little shy. Qiqi's words made two things clear. One was that her father seemed to have multiple women, and she herself didn't mind the situation. Second, Yang Qiqi said that her aunt had a celebrity as well. She was treating them as Lin Yi's women. Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but he didn't explain. This kind of thing didn't need to be explained. Su Shihan had already expressed her feelings, and Qingyi was naked. It was impossible to say that there was nothing between them. But Lin Yi hadn't given them a clear answer yet. Lin Yi's future was complicated. Although it looked like Lin Yi's enemies were hiding, it was all built on a lie. Once this lie was exposed, Lin Yi's good days would come to an end. So, Lin Yi couldn't promise Su Shihan anything. All right, Qiqi, let's not talk about this for now. Have you booked the hotel? Lin Yi asked. Yeah, the best hotels in this city are Kristen Hotel and Douglas Hotel. Kristen Hotel and Kristen Auction are together. They're both part of the Overseas Practitioner Trading Association. Yang Qiqi explained. Douglas Hotel, our family has shares in it. It's more convenient to stay there, but it's not good for getting information about the auction. Yang Qiqi and Lin Yi talked about the pros and cons of the two. The Yang Qiqi right now was no longer that cool and silly girl. She was a smart girl, and Lin Yi was a little surprised. In actuality, Yang Qiqi had grown up a long time ago. It was only because of little Gio that she had to participate in the trials and the marketplace again and again, becoming a punching bag. After all, her strength level was there, and in the world of practitioners, strength was everything. If you didn't have strength, no matter where you came from, people would look down on you. It was different in the common world. Yang Qiqi had a lot of power here, and things like this were easy to handle. Just like Lin Yi, back when he was weak, no one in House Yu's auction would put him in their eyes. Normal noble houses could strut around in front of Lin Yi, but now, even the ancients would be scared of Lin Yi, wouldn't they? The Overseas Practitioners Association? Lin Yi frowned. He didn't think that Kristen Auction would be the Overseas Practitioners Association's business. The grudge between Lin Yi and the association was quite deep. He'd killed one of their elders, and while there was no news yet, it was likely that they'd put him on their blacklist. He just didn't know if the people at the auction would recognize him. But no matter what, Lin Yi had to be careful. He didn't want the association to know that he was here, and it'd affect the auction plan. That's right. Only the Overseas Cultivators Association has these rare and strange materials. Basically, they won't appear in other auctions, Yang Qiqi said. The association has their own channels to get these things. This is their business in the common world? Lin Yi nodded. Yes, after all, training requires funds, and these businesses in the common world can make up for that, Yang Qiqi said. How about this, Qiqi? Don't write my name when you sign up. You sign up under your own name, Lin Yi said after some thought. It'd be better if he didn't reveal his identity. It'd be troublesome if someone knew who he was. Oh? All right. Qiqi was a little confused, but she nodded anyway. It wasn't a big deal. She was just curious. Lin Yi bro, do you know about this association? Yeah, a little. Lin Yi waved his hand. Just keep it a secret. All right. Qiqi didn't ask any more. Chapter 3247. Lin Yi had a room to himself, Su Shihan and Qingyi shared a room, and Yang Qiqi booked a room at Kristen Hotel. She wanted to find out how many people were interested in the blue crystal. Lin Yi was determined to get it this time, and Yang Qiqi wanted to find out. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you'll win every battle. And so Lin Yi didn't ask her to stay, and let her go. After Lin Yi settled down, he brought Su Shihan and Qingyi to the hotel for a quick meal before going back to their room to rest. Since there were people from the association here, Lin Yi didn't dare be careless. Before the auction started, he decided to explain things in simple terms. 3 days later, when the auction officially started, Lin Yi brought Su Shihan and Qing Yi out of the hotel. At this time, Yang Qiqi was already waiting in front of the hotel. Yang Qiqi drove a business car, very low-key and unassuming. Evidently, she'd listened to Lin Yi's words to keep a low profile. Lin Yi brought Su Shihan and Qing Yi to the car, and Yang Qiqi started the car and headed to Kristen Auction House. In the car, there was only Yang Qiqi, no driver or assistant. Kristen Auction House was built very luxuriously, similar to House Yu's auction house. Yang Qiqi's car was stopped at the entrance, but after Yang Qiqi showed them an invitation, the security at the entrance let her in. Yang Qiqi parked the car in the underground parking lot of the auction house, and got out with Lin Yi. But at this time, a red sports car stopped near Yang Qiqi's car, and 2 young men got out of the car. One was Asian, and the other was European. Yang Qiqi frowned when she saw the two. But she knew that if she left without saying goodbye, these two would definitely suspect her. Yang Qiqi wasn't too afraid of anything, but her family's power was much weaker than these 2 young men. Her real identity, after all, didn't mean much with her father's departure. 7 sis, you're here for the auction as well? The Asian man walked up to Qiqi quickly. However, his eyes were locked on Su Shihan's face. Obviously, he was shocked by Su Shihan's beauty. He Tianzu, young master he, I really didn't think that you'd be participating in an auction like this. Qiqi wasn't trying to start a conversation, she really was surprised. He Tianzu was the son of the Overseas Cultivators Association's president, He Luonan. The Overseas Cultivators Association was an organization established in the past decade. Its purpose was to bring these overseas cultivators together. Gathering together, they formed an organization similar to an ancient sect, and He Lun Dun was a peak late-stage heaven rank master. Next to He Tianzu was a young man of European descent. His name was Frio Kristen, and he was the son of the vice president of the Overseas Cultivators Association, Elder Kristen. As for why the businesses of the Overseas Cultivators Association were named after the vice president, the reason was simple. He Luoluo didn't like doing business, and Kristen's family was originally a business family, so he used their name to do business. The effect would be better. Otherwise, as powerful as the Overseas Cultivators Association was, they wouldn't be able to go up against the local powers. They might as well use the connections of Kristen's family to do this. Since He Tianzu was He Luonan's son, he could just take whatever he wanted from the auction. There was no need for him to participate in the auction. This was also the reason why Qiqi was confused. I couldn't get used to training in the association, so I came out for a stroll. Look, something good happened. 7 sis, aren't you going to introduce me to this beautiful lady? He Tianzi looked at Shihan, not bothering to hide the adoration in his eyes. Perhaps it was due to the influence of the overseas culture, but He Tianzu's way of expressing his love wasn't subtle at all. Lin Yi slightly frowned. Although the 2 guys in front of him looked young, their strength wasn't low. This He Tianzu actually had the strength of a peak late-phase sky class. Of course, it was also possible that he was already very old and was just maintaining his youthful appearance. After all, after stepping into sky class, one's appearance wouldn't change anymore. The other European young man, on the other hand, was sky class mid-stage. This was very rare, and so Lin Yi didn't need to guess to know that these 2 belonged to the Overseas Cultivators Association as well, and their positions weren't low either. Lin Yi wanted to avoid them, but he didn't think that He Tianzu would be so directly expressing his love to Shihan. This made Lin Yi feel helpless. But at this time, Lin Yi really couldn't fight with them. This was their turf, and if they fought, they wouldn't be able to escape. Even if they escaped, the blue crystal would be gone. Yang Qiqi's face froze. She didn't think that He Tianzu would make a request like this. She was in a difficult position, but after some hesitation, she still said, "This is the celebrity, Miss Shihan. This time, she's here to discuss business with XXX Entertainment Company. She'll be leaving soon." Yang Qiqi wanted to say that Shihan was just a passerby, and would leave soon, but evidently He Tianzu didn't understand. He said, I was wondering why Miss Sue was so pretty. So you're a celebrity. XXX Entertainment Company may be famous, but there are too many big names there. In Frio Owner's house, there's also a film company, Kristen Entertainment Company. It's not as famous as XXX, but I think that if you want to promote a newcomer, it'll be very easy. Last year, the newcomer who won the Best Actress award in XXX film was supported by Kristen Entertainment Company. Since Miss Sue is here for business, you have to consider the promotion of both sides. On this side, I can guarantee that all the resources will be used for Miss Sue alone. I'll think about it. Thank you, young master he. Sue Shirhan was, after all, a celebrity. She had seen the world. After a short moment of shock, she smiled and said politely, "But XXX Company was also introduced by my friend. I need to think about it carefully." "That's good." "Right, Miss Sue, are you here for the auction as well?" He Tianzu wasn't stupid since Shirhan didn't agree directly, he wouldn't force her. There were many ways to pick up girls, so he changed the topic. Chapter 3248. Are you really just looking around? Miss Sue, what do you like? Don't hold back, I'm a shareholder of this company. If you like something, tell me beforehand, and I'll reserve it for you. Otherwise, who knows who will get it when the competition starts? He Tianzi said. Miss Sue, you don't have to hide it. Since you're going to XXX Company to discuss a collaboration, and you're in a hurry, there's no way you'll be staying here for an auction. I'm sure Miss Sue has your eyes on something here, right? Shirhan didn't expect He Tianzu to be this hard to deal with. This guy was a pervert, but he wasn't stupid. Chi-Chi's explanation only made him more persistent. But what could Shirhan say? She was only here to accompany Lin Yi. The only thing she knew was that Lin Yi wanted a blue crystal, but she couldn't tell him. What if He Tianzu tried to stop him? That wouldn't be worth it. Lin Yi was a bit impatient. Why was this He Tianzu so hard to deal with? If he knew that he was going to bid for a blue crystal, wouldn't there be some resistance? With that thought, Lin Yi could only say, I dragged Xiaohan to come with me, and I helped to contact XXX Entertainment Company. So, Xiaohan was actually waiting for me. Lin Yi didn't want to be in the limelight, but he had no choice. Xiaohan was a celebrity, but her social experience was much less than this person in front of him. This He Tianzu was very hard to deal with, and Xiaohan wasn't his opponent at all. Oh? He Tianzu looked at Lin Yi, a flash of unfriendliness in his eyes, but he still said politely, Mr. You are? Mr. He, you're from the association, right? What's your status in the association? Lin Yi didn't answer but asked back. He needed to find a reason to calm He Tianzu down, or he wouldn't be able to attend the auction. Brother Yi, this is young Master He, the son of the association's chairman, He Luan. Chi-Chi introduced to Lin Yi, but didn't say Lin Yi's name. So it's the chairman's son, nice to meet you. I came here this time to discuss a business deal with President He. Lin Yi smiled and extended his hand. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Lin Yi, the sales manager of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. I'm here to establish a trade relationship with the Overseas Cultivators Association to sell our products, the first and second level automatic cauldrons. Oh? He Tianzu stared blankly for a moment. He also knew about the first-grade automatic cauldron. He was also prepared to send people to investigate, and see if he could buy some in bulk. However, the death of an elder made the Overseas Cultivators Association temporarily not dare to act blindly without thinking. They were currently investigating the background of the murderer, Lin Yi. Since this person had the ability to kill a heaven stage expert, he was definitely not a nobody. However, he didn't expect that the Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company would send someone before the association even sent anyone. This surprised He Tianzu. He was even more surprised when he heard Lin Yi say that there were second-level automatic cauldrons. His attitude towards Lin Yi became warmer, and he immediately shook hands with Lin Yi. Mr. Ling, does your company still sell second-level automatic cauldrons? It's about to go on the market. Lin Yi nodded. But it's limited. The current sales channel is only through the auctions of the Cultivators Association. However, I'm here this time to directly supply a few to the association. After all, you're far away from here, and it's not convenient for you to participate in the auctions. Our company also wants to establish a long-term business relationship with the association. Linny spoke with conviction. After all, he was familiar with the first and second cauldrons, so he was able to trick He Tianzu in one fell swoop. Thank you so much! He Tianzu smiled and said. Then I welcome Mr. Ling to visit the Overseas Cultivators Association after the auction. This is my name card. As he said that, He Tianzu handed a card to Linny. Linny took a look at it. There was only He Tianzu's name, a contact number, and an address. There was nothing else. Obviously, the address was the address of the association. I left my name card in the hotel. This time, I'm just following Sister Xiaoqi to experience the auction here. Linny kept the name card and said, It's fine. He Tianzu waved his hand. Mr. Ling, you and Miss Su are Xiaohan is our company's spokesperson. Naturally, Linny couldn't say anything else. He Tianzu had just calmed down, and there was no telling what he was going to do next, catching Linny off guard. All right, then you're welcome to visit, Mr. Ling. I'll be leaving now. He Tianzu understood the gravity of the situation, and knew that this was not the time to get on Lin Yi's bad side. This guy was here to give them a treasure, and the association needed it. If they were to piss him off, then the automatic cauldron would be gone. So, He Tianzu decided to give up for now. Linny let out a sigh of relief, but didn't let his guard down at all. He planned to leave this place as soon as the auction was over. After entering the auction, Linny followed Yang Qiqi to the VIP room. Anyone with a certain background would have their own VIP room, but even if it was just Lin Yi's group, Linny still checked the room carefully to make sure there weren't any surveillance devices. Xiaoqi, you're in contact with this association? Yeah, Linny bro, I'm a member of the association. All the overseas practitioners are members here, and they don't need to do much. All they need to do is register, and they get a certain amount of elixirs and treasures every month. It's a public welfare organization, I guess. Linny nodded. It seemed like He Luodong really knew how to win people's hearts, gathering all these practitioners under his banner. He didn't need them to do anything right now, but in a critical moment, they could be very useful. And after Tang Yuqi became a heaven-rank expert, it was only natural that the Overseas Cultivators Association wanted to keep him there. After all, Tang Yuqi had obtained a lot of cultivation resources from the Overseas Cultivators Association. It could be said that without the Overseas Cultivators Association, there wouldn't be a heaven-rank Tang Yuqi. Chapter 3249. But the association didn't give him any face at all. They couldn't even talk about it. To put it bluntly, strength was the only thing that mattered in the world of cultivation. But if Linny had known that the auction house was the association's territory, Linny wouldn't have come at all. Even if he did, he wouldn't have used the identity of Linny. He'd have put on a disguise, like a 1,000 silk mask, or just let Qiqi show up. Who knew that the association would be built right in front of Qiqi's house? But since he was here, he couldn't hide anymore. Linny had no choice but to continue. I see. Why didn't you mention this before? Linny sighed. Before? You didn't ask before, Linny bro. What's wrong, Linny bro? It seems like you have some sort of grudge with the association? Qiqi wasn't an idiot. She could already guess what was going on. That's right, I killed one of their elders, Linny said. Ah? Elder Chen? Qiqi blinked. Evidently, she knew about this as well. Qiqi, you know about this? Linny was a bit surprised. He didn't expect Qiqi to know about this. All the members of the association know about it. Elder Wang came back alone, and Elder Chen, a sky-class mid-phase peak, was killed. They called us for a meeting to discuss what we should do, but we don't know much about that side, and I'm not a core member, so I don't even know who killed Elder Chen or how. I'm only attending the meeting to warn everyone not to mess with the ancient sections, Qiqi said. Linny nodded. It's fine, we're already here. We'll leave this place as soon as the auction is over. All right then. About the cooperation with XXX Entertainment. Chi-Chi hesitated. Forget it, we'll go straight to Island X, Lenny said after a sigh. Shirhan and Chingy didn't say anything else. After all, their safety was more important. They could only postpone the money-making business. Who told that He Tianzu to fall in love with Shirhan? Soon, the auction began. Just like the other auctions, after the host explained the rules of the auction proceeded smoothly. Linny looked at the auction guide. All of the items were treasures. Of course, these were for normal people, things that could extend one's lifespan and cure illnesses. There were basically no items that were beneficial for training. However, thinking about it, it made sense. The Overseas Cultivators Association probably bought some elixirs in bulk from somewhere. However, the elixirs that were useful for cultivation were kept for themselves. These elixirs were just accessories that they bought to generate income. These were things that Lenny didn't care about. There was quite a bit of competition, but it was normal. Most people who came to this auction were normal people. These people were after these treasures that could extend one's lifespan. Finally, it was time for the item that Lenny needed, the blue crystal. Lenny took a deep breath and nodded to Chi-Chi, indicating that he would be the one to bid. Lenny wanted to keep a low profile and try not to show his face. The next item is a blue crystal, a very rare gem. The host introduced the blue crystal. Of course, he didn't know that this thing could be used for crafting. Of course, even if he knew, it wouldn't have mattered. Blacksmiths were gone now. Even if this thing was used by blacksmiths, it would only be a decoration. The people who came here to participate in the auction were basically here for heavenly materials and earthly treasures like longevity elixirs. These people didn't care much about gemstones and crystals. These luxurious items could be found in any other auction, and they didn't come here to study them. Therefore, when the blue crystal was taken out, it didn't attract too much attention. Even those who had been bidding for it just now picked up their teacups and prepared to drink some water to relax and welcome the next round of bidding. Linny, on the other hand, was paying close attention to this blue crystal. 8 million! A voice rang out. The starting price of this blue crystal was 5 million. In auctions like this, the starting price wasn't high. It was all about the bidding. But there weren't many people who wanted this blue crystal. In fact, the only reason they brought it out was to relax a little. They didn't expect to sell it for a good price. 9 million! Another person also called out his own price. However, after this person called out 9 million, the previous person didn't raise the price anymore. Obviously, he wasn't determined to get it. Someone else bid higher than him, so he gave up. Perhaps he was just a scammer. His purpose was to prevent the auction from having an awkward silence and an unsold item. 10 million! Chi-Chi called out. She could tell that the auctioneer was getting ready to ask for the first time. Evidently, no one was interested in this item anymore. Chi-Chi's bid surprised the man who was bidding 9 million. He looked at Chi-Chi's room and gave up right away. The blue crystal wasn't very pure, and there were a lot of impurities in it. It was a huge discount on the value of the crystal. As a result, 10 million wasn't a bad price, but an item of this quality wasn't very useful. Of course, for collectors and engravers, a flaw in a crystal was a fatal wound. But it didn't matter to Linny. He used it for crafting, and this blue crystal was just a supplementary material. He needed to grind it into powder, and the impurities wouldn't affect his usage at all. After Chi-Chi, no one else made a bid. The auctioneer raised his hammer as well. The guest from room 27 bids 10 million. Are there any higher bids? 10 million, going once. Just when Linny thought he had it, a familiar voice rang out. It made Linny frown. 12 million! The one who made the bid was He Tianzu, who he had met in the parking lot earlier. Chapter 3250. Evidently, He Tianzu had a purpose for doing this. Was he trying to go against Linny? Linny looked at Chi-Chi and nodded. 14 million! Chi-Chi called out again. 15 million! He Tianzu said. What was worth mentioning was that the prices here were all in euros, so 15 million was quite a high price. 17 million! Chi-Chi added another 2 million. 18 million! He Tianzu didn't hesitate. 20 million! Chi-Chi added another 2 million. 21 million! He Tianzu continued. Lin Yi took a deep breath. This He Tianzu was pushing the price to over 20 million. In this way, it wasn't as simple as it seemed. The price had already exceeded those ordinary heavenly materials and earthly treasures by a lot. The guests present were also very puzzled. How could such a broken blue crystal with impurities be so valuable? And there were people competing for it. Very few of these normal merchants knew who He Tianzu was, since they were on a different level. He didn't interact much with them, but Frio Kristen, on the other hand, did interact with some of the merchants, but he wasn't the one bidding this time. Naturally, no one thought too much about it. Looking at Chi-Chi, Lin Yi raised 3 fingers. 30 million! Chi-Chi understood what Lin Yi was getting at. 40 million! This time, He Tianzu also changed the previous method of increasing the price by 1 million, and directly increased it by 10 million. 40 million wasn't a small amount. It made Lin Yi's mouth twitch. Lin Yi had some money now, but it wasn't a lot. It was all invested in the orphanage and the second-level cauldrons. 50 million! Chi-Chi continued, giving Lin Yi a reassuring look before whispering. I still have money here. 100 million! He Tianzu simply did not bother to deal with it, and directly began to quote a large price. Even Chi-Chi, who had some money stashed away, was shocked by the price. Of course, this was for Lin Yi's auction. Chi-Chi didn't hesitate. 150 million! 300 million! He Tianzu said faintly. Chi-Chi was about to continue when Lin Yi shook his head. It's fine, give up, ah? Chi-Chi blinked, not understanding why Lin Yi would give up just like that. I have some money stashed away, around 1 billion. If you can't do it, I can borrow from Liljio. It's not a matter of money. He Tianzu is the boss of this auction house, and no matter what price he calls out, it's just money in his left pocket. He can call out however much he wants, buying under the company's name and selling under the company's name. He doesn't even need to pay a commission, it's just a formality. He could even call out 10 billion. Chi-Chi thought about it, it was true. This auction house belonged to He Tianzu, and no matter how much she bid, she wouldn't be able to compete with him. And so, Chi-Chi didn't say anything and gave up. The guest in room 3 has bid 300 million. Are there any higher bids? 300 million, going once, going twice, going thrice. Sold. The auctioneer closed the auction. Let's go, there's no point in us staying here. Lin Yi stood up, and Chi-Chi, Shirhan, and Qingyi followed Lin Yi, leaving the room and heading to the elevator. Chi-Chi, Shirhan, and Qingyi didn't say anything else. They knew that Lin Yi didn't get the blue crystal, so he wasn't in a good mood. But there was nothing they could do about it. He Tianzu's actions were unpredictable. The 4 of them took the elevator to the underground parking lot. Just as they were about to get into the car, the door of the elevator dedicated to the internal passage opened. Inside the elevator, He Tianzu and Frio Kristen slowly walked out. He Tianzu, on the other hand, was holding a box, smiling as he walked towards Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't understand what He Tianzu was doing, but he politely stopped. He Tianzu wasn't much of a threat in his eyes. He was a sky-class late-phase peak, and with Lin Yi's current strength, even if he couldn't kill him instantly, he could still injure him when he was unprepared. But what would he do after that? There would be endless troubles, and he wouldn't even be able to escape from this city. Miss Su, I'm sorry, I was bidding just to personally deliver this blue crystal to Miss Su. He Tianzu smiled and passed the box to Su Shirhan. He did this for Shirhan's sake. It didn't matter which of the 4 of them needed this crystal, since he gave it to Shirhan, it was the same as leaving a good impression on Shirhan. Since Shirhan was the spokesperson of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company, no matter what, he couldn't force her. If things went sour with Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company, and they couldn't provide the first and second level cauldrons, then it wouldn't be worth it. So he changed his strategy, using this method to make Shirhan owe him a favor, and things could be done step by step. Thank you? Shirhan hesitated, but still took the blue crystal. Shirhan didn't know what this thing was used for, but one thing was for sure, Lin Yi really needed it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come all the way here to participate in the auction. So even if Shirhan knew He Tianzu's intentions weren't pure, she still accepted it. Haha, Miss Su, then I won't bother you anymore. Go back and think about my proposal. I'll visit you later. He Tianzu smiled. With that, He Tianzu got into his sports car with Frio and left the parking lot. Lin Yi watched the sports car leave, and Chi-Chi and the others got into the MPV. Lin Yi said to Chi-Chi, "No need to go back to the hotel, don't take anything, just drive away." Okay. Chi-Chi nodded and started the car. Inside the hotel, there were only some luggage and Su Shirhan and Qingyi's clothes. Although it was expensive, it was better to lose them than lose their lives. Yang Chi-Chi got out of the auction and headed towards the highway, but she didn't get far before a red Ferrari overtook her from behind. It was He Tianzu's car. Chapter 3251. Was it because of him or Su Shirhan? Maybe they were just passing by. However, He Tianzu's next move showed his purpose. The red sports car went straight to the front of Lin Yi's car, and from the front passenger seat, a person jumped out. This person was Frio Leono, a Sky Class early phase. It was easy for him to stop a speeding car. It was absolutely impossible to kill him. How could a heaven stage expert be killed by a car? Not only would he not die, but the car would also be destroyed. So Lin Yi said, "Chi-Chi, stop the car!" Actually, when Lin Yi said that, Chi-Chi was already slowing down. If the car was hit, she and Lin Yi were practitioners, so it wouldn't be a problem. But Su Shirhan and Qingyi would be in danger. Of course, she didn't know that Qingyi was also a practitioner. But Frio Leono didn't just stand there and wait for Lin Yi's car to come over. After he got off, he ran towards Lin Yi's car. Even if Chi-Chi stopped, it was useless. A Sky Class's speed was not to be underestimated. When Frio Leono rushed over, he suddenly kicked Lin Yi's car. There was a loud bang, and the car shook violently, flying towards the side of the road. "Careful!" Lin Yi shouted and quickly held Su Shirhan tightly, channeling the art of dragon mastery, using his qi to protect Su Shirhan. As for Chi-Chi and Cheng-Yi, they were fine. Lin Yi didn't need to worry. Chi-Chi was a physical practitioner, and her body was stronger than spiritual practitioners. Cheng-Yi was an earth class too. Even if the car broke, they would be fine. After a series of violent bumps and rolls, the car rolled a couple of times on the gravel on the side of the road before coming to a stop. The body of the car was completely caved in, but Chi-Chi and Cheng-Yi were fine. Shirhan, who was protected by Lin Yi, was fine as well. However, the next moment, Frio Leonor ran over and grabbed the deformed door of the minivan. He pulled it easily, and the door fell down. The next moment, Frio Leonor looked at Lin Yi and the others in the car mockingly. "Not dead yet?" "Sure enough, the whole car is filled with cultivators. You really can't judge a book by its cover," Frio said lightly. "Get out of the car and come back with us. If you surrender, I won't touch you for the time being. Otherwise, you will suffer." "Frio Leonor, what do you mean? Is this how you treat the customers of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company?" Lin Yi asked faintly, trying his luck. "Guest?" Frio Leonor smiled coldly and said faintly, "Lin Yi, stop pretending. Do you think we didn't find out who you are?" In fact, Frio Leonor and He Tianzu just found out about Lin Yi's real identity. He Tianzu had reported Lin Yi and Su Shirhan's identity to his old man, He Luonan, and naturally, He Luonan had to investigate Lin Yi's background to see if he was from Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. In the end, Lin Yi's identity was revealed. Lin Yi was the murderer who killed Elder Chen, Lin Yi. Elder Wang recognized the person who was pretending to be Lin Yi immediately. So, He Luonan immediately called He Tianzu and told him not to act rashly. He had to stabilize Lin Yi first, and a large number of reinforcements would arrive soon. However, Tianzi didn't do that. After receiving the call, he immediately chased after Lin Yi and was ready to make a move. He was young and rash. He didn't believe that Lin Yi could kill Elder Qin in a second. From his perspective, it must be Elder Wang's fault. In order to avoid losing face, he exaggerated about how powerful Lin Yi was to absolve himself of responsibility for his escape. In He Tianzu's understanding, no matter how powerful Lin Yi was, how could a Sky-class early-phase master kill a Sky-class mid-phase peak in a second? Their strengths were completely different. How could he do that? It was like a Golden-class master killing a Mystic-class master. He Tianzu didn't believe it at all. Moreover, the most important thing was that Lin Yi lied to him before. This made He Tianzu very angry. He wanted to get back at him. He couldn't give away the blue crystal for nothing. Of course, there was also another reason. He wanted to push Su Shihan away as soon as possible. If Su Shihan was seen by his father, he would most likely ruin his plan. He Tianzu's mnemonic chant was a kind of pure yang mnemonic chant. He shouldn't get close to women as it would slow down his cultivation speed. Although he was already a peak late-stage heaven rank, he little wanted him to step into the perfection realm as soon as possible. Before reaching the perfection realm, his private life was very restricted. So, if Su Shihan was seen by He Luonu, he probably wouldn't let him get close to her. He Tianzu was a lecher. Actually, in the end, it could also be explained that he had been holding it in for so many years. The children who were with him all cultivated different mantras than he did. Watching them play with women, and changing lovers one after another, He Tianzu was truly envious. But because of the family rules, he could only sneak in. Even so, he was still discovered by his father, and was reprimanded and placed in confinement several times. But this time, after seeing Su Shihan, he couldn't suppress the desire in his heart. He swore to get Su Shihan into bed. He couldn't wait anymore. So, he and Frio made a move together. Lin Yi heard Frio call out his name. He knew that it was bad. They must know his identity already. There was no point in hiding it anymore. He quickly calculated in his mind. But on the surface, Lin Yi still got off the car obediently. He said to Frio, "I can get off and go with you, but Yang Qiqi is just a friend I met in the Ice Palace. It has nothing to do with her. Can you let her go?" "Sure." Frio nodded. He didn't know what kind of relationship Lin Yi and Yang Qiqi had. After all, Yang Qiqi grew up in Europe, and Lin Yi was a practitioner from China. These two shouldn't have anything to do with each other. But Lin Yi said that he met Yang Qiqi in the Ice Palace. That made sense. Yang Qiqi was very interested in participating in trials with great rewards. The association knew about these trials, but they rarely sent people to participate. It was too dangerous. The reward wasn't worth the effort. Chapter 3252. It was said that she was related to that powerful man back in the day, and so the association didn't want to offend her. Even if the Common World Assassin Group wasn't much of a threat to them, and that man had disappeared for many years, it was hard to say if he was related to Qiqi or not. But they didn't want to start a feud if they could avoid it. After all, Qiqi was a member of the association. "Yang Qiqi, leave this place." Lin Yi looked at Qiqi, giving her a reassuring look before telling her to leave. Qiqi trusted Lin Yi unconditionally, and didn't think much about it. She thought that Lin Yi had complete confidence in dealing with these two, and her presence might make things difficult for him. And so, Qiqi nodded and left without another word. Perhaps, in Qiqi's eyes, Lin Yi was invincible? In the Ice Palace, the Cultivator Trade Association, and the Sky Elixir Sex Test, Lin Yi had shown extraordinary capabilities, and so Qiqi didn't think that he would be in any danger. After all, Qiqi still had to help Lin Yi gather materials in Europe in the future, and it wouldn't be good for Qiqi or Lin Yi if she were to get into trouble with these people. Qiqi was the one who took the blue crystal box, and this was what Lin Yi hinted at. Frio saw it, but didn't say anything. If Qiqi really needed the blue crystal, then there was no need to investigate. Chi-Chi was a practitioner, and while the car was flipped and unrecognizable, it could still be driven with a push. Chi-Chi pushed the car back onto the highway and drove away. At this time, He Tianzu walked over as well. In Lin Yi's eyes, Frio wasn't a threat, but He Tianzu was. A Sky-class late-phase peak, Lin Yi didn't know if he could kill him with his current strength. Moreover, Lin Yi had been too busy recently and had not tried to activate the 10th style of the Frenzy Fire 8 trigrams palm. If he could successfully activate the 10th style of the Frenzy Fire 8 trigrams palm, he might be able to arm wrestle with He Tianzu. Lin Yi took a deep breath and looked at He Tianzu. He Tianzu, I don't think there's any hatred between us, and I'm not lying to you. If you do some research, you'll find out that I'm the boss of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. If the Overseas Cultivators Association wants to purchase a Tier 1 and Tier 2 automatic medical cauldron, it has to go through my hands. You can't avoid me, so I think we can still sit down and talk. He Tianzu frowned slightly. Lin Yi's words weren't unreasonable. Could it be that his father had also thought of this problem when he didn't want him to act? If he had acted rashly, he would have almost ruined the whole thing. Although it was important to avenge Elder Chen, the automatic medical cauldron was equally important. With the automatic medical cauldron, the Overseas Cultivators Association would be able to concoct more medicinal pills and train more cultivators. I'll make a call. He Tianzu nodded slightly and dialed He Luodan's number. Father! He Tianzu didn't say much. He didn't mention a word about how he intercepted Lin Yi. He only said that he stabilized Lin Yi and told He Luodan what Lin Yi said. On the other side, He Tianzu nodded repeatedly and hung up after a while. How was it? Lin Yi asked. He Tianzu's answer would directly determine his next move. Lin Yi, you're the boss of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company, so there's no need for you to lie to me. However, I can also tell you that the automatic medical cauldron is not only sold by your company, the Sky Elixir sect is also selling it. We can go to the Sky Elixir sect to buy it. We don't need to go through you, He Tianzu said. Lin Yi frowned slightly. Sky Elixir sect. Indeed, the Sky Elixir sect's imitations seem to be troublesome now. They're just imitating our products. They don't have any research and development capabilities. Our second-level automatic medical cauldron will be on the market soon. Among them, I believe young Master He knows very well which one has the best future, Lin Yi said. Haha, that's just your side of the story. The Sky Elixir sect is an old school of alchemy. How do you know that they don't have research capabilities? Without Butcher Zhang, I wouldn't eat a pig, He Tianzu said indifferently. However, if Mr. Lin wants to redeem himself, that's fine. As long as Mr. Lin can help me and let Miss Su Shihan sign in my company, we'll be business partners. How about that? I'll go back and think about it. Lin Yi pondered for a while and said, Think about it? If you nod, I'll take Su Shihan away. Then we'll consider this settled. Otherwise, pretend I didn't say anything, He Tianzu threatened. In fact, He Luta's phone call had already made it very clear. If Lin Yi could pay a higher price, then they could work together. After all, Elder Chen's life was not as important as the overall benefits of the association. Of course, if Lin Yi didn't cooperate, then there was still the Sky Elixir sect. They could still buy automatic medical cauldrons from Lin Yi. So, this ambiguous answer gave He Tianzu a chance to take Su Shihan down. Lin Yi didn't think that this rich kid wasn't stupid. He knew to take Su Shihan back first. It seemed that his plan to stall for time wasn't going to work. Thinking up to here, Lin Yi sighed and said, He Tianzu, have you thought about it? You really want to go against me? Lin Yi, what do you mean by that? I was kind enough to contact the film company for Miss Su Shihan. How is that going against you? He Tianzu said calmly. Haha, I'm sure you know what you're thinking in your heart, don't you? Lin Yi smiled and said noncommittally. Okay, don't worry about what I'm thinking. This is my request. If you agree, then we'll sit down and talk. If you don't, then we'll go our separate ways. He Tianzu looked at Lin Yi as if he had control over the whole situation, leaving Lin Yi with no choice. Is that so? Lin Yi took a deep breath and said, "Let me think about it, can I?" "Of course." He Tianzi nodded indifferently. From what he saw, Lin Yi's so-called think about it was just because he didn't want to lose face. People under other people's eaves had to lower their heads. He didn't think that Lin Yi had the courage to go against him. Lin Yi pretended to lower his head and pondered. In fact, he was chanting the chant and suddenly, he made his move. Chapter 3253. This was Lin Yi's first time activating the 10th form of Frenzy 8 trigram palm. Although Lin Yi couldn't guarantee success, he had to give it a try. However, Lin Yi didn't dare to use his full strength. Instead, he reserved a portion of qi. After all, even if Lin Yi could kill He Tianzi, there was still Freyana next to him. Lin Yi couldn't bet everything on He Tianzi. Boom dash. Fortunately, Lin Yi successfully activated it. It seemed that using the 10th form of Frenzy 8 trigram palm at the peak of early phase of heaven class was still possible. However, Lin Yi could clearly feel that when this palm landed on He Tianzi's body, it wasn't as shocking as when he used Frenzy 8 trigram palm on other people. He Tianzi's body shook a little, and he quickly took a few steps back. Blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth, but he didn't die. Instead, he suffered a moderate injury. "Changyi, hug me from behind!" Lin Yi suddenly shouted. Along with his shout, he carried Su Shihan on his shoulder. Changyi was an Earth-class practitioner, so her reaction was very fast. She directly jumped onto Lin Yi's back. Lin Yi started running. Under Lin Yi's feet was the wind-chasing lightning boots. Lin Yi already knew how to use this weapon. Now that he couldn't kill He Tianzi, he could only run. Chase! He Tianzi didn't think that Lin Yi would dare to sneak an attack. Before this, He Tianzi thought that Lin Yi would definitely give in, but he didn't think that Lin Yi would actually attack him when he was unprepared. Although this move wasn't fatal to He Tianzi, it was enough to affect his movement and strength. Therefore, He Tianzi directly ordered Freyana. He quickly took out a small medicine bottle, poured out a pill, and directly put it in his mouth. Then, he adjusted his breathing. Freyana wasn't an idiot. He was the vice leader's son. Although he usually hung out with He Tianzi, he wasn't He Tianzi's subordinate. He was only an early phase heaven class. If Lin Yi could injure He Tianzi, then he must be a very powerful person. Although on the surface, Lin Yi's strength was only at the peak of early phase heaven class, if Lin Yi could injure He Tianzi, then his strength was probably as high as the rumors said. But although it was very high, it wasn't very troublesome. If there were a few peak late phase heaven powerhouses besieging Lin Yi, or a great perfection powerhouse, then Lin Yi would definitely be captured. Thinking of this, Freyana felt some regret. He should have advised He Tianzi not to act rashly, but now that He Tianzi was injured and Lin Yi ran away, he didn't dare to act rashly. "Freyana, why don't you chase him?" He Tianzi recuperated his body, and his injuries slightly calmed down. After catching his breath, he quickly asked, "Young Master He, I'm only at the early phase of the heaven realm. If I go after him, wouldn't I be sending you off?" Freyana bitterly smiled. "You aren't his opponent. If I go, I might not be able to come back." He Tianzi was slightly startled, but he immediately nodded. Freyana was right, he was only at the early phase of the heaven realm. If Lin Yi could even injure him, who was at the peak late phase of the heaven realm, then killing Freyana definitely wouldn't be a problem. At this moment, He Tianzi believed that Elder Chen had been killed by Lin Yi, but he wasn't willing. He clenched his teeth and said, "Let's chase together, we can't let him escape. You deal with those two women, I'll deal with Lin Yi." "Okay." Freyana had no problem dealing with the two women, as long as he didn't directly face Lin Yi. At this moment, Lin Yi had already run far away. Although He Tianzi and Freyana were heaven realm experts, it was still very difficult for them to chase after him. Looking at Lin Yi's gradually disappearing figure, the two were somewhat puzzled. How could Lin Yi run so fast? Lin Yi didn't dare to stop for even a moment. After all, although He Tianzi was injured, it was obvious that after taking the recover pill, it was not a big problem. If he caught up to Lin Yi, it would be very easy for him to kill the current Lin Yi. After all, when Lin Yi had urged the 10th style of the Frenzy 8 trigram palm, he had already used most of his strength and true qi, and the remaining strength and true qi were used to run away. Therefore, Lin Yi carried one on his back and the other on his back, running all the way on the highway. Fortunately, there were not many cars on the highway, otherwise they would have been scared to death by Lin Yi's behavior. Although He Tianzu and Fry Anu's speed was not slow, and Lin Yi had 2 people to drag him down, Lin Yi not only had the exquisite butterfly subtle steps, but also the gale-chasing lightning boots. His speed was incomparably fast. In the blink of an eye, he had left the 2 people far behind. This kid is stepping on the windfire wheels, right? How can he run so fast? He Tianzu also used all his strength, but not only did he not catch up, but he also chased further and further away, which made him very depressed. It is indeed a bit strange. There is something strange about this kid, Fry Anu also said. Although he did not guess that Lin Yi had a divine weapon, he could clearly feel that Lin Yi was different from normal people. Finally, Lin Yi disappeared, and He Tianzu and Fry Anu had to stop and sit in the wheat field by the road to rest. At this time, He Tianzu's phone also rang. Hello? Dad? He Tianzu's voice was very careful. After all, he had made a mistake and made a mistake. Tianzu, where are you? He Lin's voice came from the phone. Dad, I am sorry, I acted rashly. Not only was I injured by Lin Yi, but I also let him run away, He Tianzu said gloomily. What? He Lin's voice was stagnant, and then he became angry. Didn't I tell you to stop him first, and then wait for us to go over? He Tianzu naturally did not dare to say anything about Su Shihan, so he could only say. Lin Yi seemed to have noticed something. After leaving the auction, he directly drove to the highway. We had no choice but to stop him. Oh? Then you could have followed him. You gave up such a good opportunity for nothing. He Luan also knew that Lin Yi was a practitioner. If he ran away, it would be very difficult to catch him again. So he also knew that no matter how he reprimanded He Tianzu, it would be useless, so he could only say, forget it. If he ran away, then he ran away. I originally wanted to use this incident to make Lin Yi give up some of the benefits, then we can also get the cheap automatic medicine cauldron. But now it seems that if Lin Yi ran away, then I am afraid that he will never come here again. We have nothing to threaten him with. Chapter 3254. What about Yang Qiqi? He Tianzu asked after some hesitation. Yang Qiqi and Lin Yi are probably just acquaintances, but they're pretty close. She grew up here, and doesn't have much to do with the practitioners over there. Her background is a little complicated too, so it's best if we don't touch her. He Luonan shook his head, rejecting He Tianzu's suggestion. He didn't want to offend people because of Lin Yi, especially since Yang Qiqi was a member of the association. If he took his anger out on Qiqi because of Lin Yi, it'd make the other members hate him. Who knew if they were enemies of the association when they made friends? If they took their anger out on every enemy they met, then there'd be no point in making friends with them. Then our cauldrons. He Tianzu knew that he'd gotten into trouble. It seems like I can only ask for help from the Sky Elixir sect. Although I don't want to contact that person, there's no other choice. I can only ask for his help now. He Luan sighed. He'd been thinking about the automatic cauldron before, but Miracle Dr. Guan's company's cauldron had countless connections with Lin Yi. He didn't know much about the Sky Elixir sect either, so he could only ask for that person's help. But he'd already broken ties with that person, and he didn't want to contact him anymore. Dad? I'm sorry. He Tianzu understood his father's predicament, feeling helpless and apologetic. It's fine, you and Frio can come back. Let's just leave this as it is. We'll deal with Lin Yi in the future. We know how strong he is now, and if he could only injure you and run away, then he's obviously not that strong. He Luonan comforted. Yes, father. He Tianzu quickly nodded his head in agreement. He Tianzu and Frio returned to the association's headquarters dejectedly. only to see He Luonan with a dark expression on his face. "You too, kneel down," He Luonan said coldly. He Tianzu was his son, but the association had its rules. Even if he was He Luonan's son, he still had to go through the motions. Yes. He Tianzu and Frio Leonor did not argue. Both of them knelt in the hall. Although Frio Leonor was accompanying them, he had no choice. Who asked him to not stop them? "You guys should think about your own mistakes first. I'll contact the Chinese cultivators." He Luo really didn't want to make this call. It had been so many years since he left his hometown. 50 years ago, he had quarreled with his big brother. Then, 11 years ago, he successfully reached the peak of the late stage of Heaven stage. He founded the Overseas Cultivators Association, a sect that was not inferior to the ancient sections. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to understand the bitterness of this. Although He Luonan also understood that his elder brother reprimanded him for his own good, he still couldn't untie this knot in his heart. So many years had passed. Although he knew his elder brother's number, and knew what his elder brother was doing now, he still hadn't contacted him. After all, his elder brother was in the light, and he was in the dark. However, today's matter caught He Luonan unprepared. He originally hoped to get the right to buy the automatic cauldron from Lin Yi, but now, he could only pin his hopes on his elder brother. After all, his elder brother had some relationship with the Heavenly Elixir sect. He Luonan, on the other hand, had no contact with the Heavenly Elixir sect at all. Arriving at a secret room, He Luan dialed the number that he had tried to call over the past few years, but was always cut off by him. "Hello? Who is it?" A deep voice came from the other side of the phone. "Elder brother." After hearing this voice, He Luonan's eyes were filled with tears. For a moment, he was filled with emotion. "Warhead?" After hearing this voice on the other side of the phone, he couldn't believe it and asked subconsciously. "It's me, elder brother." He Luonan originally thought that he had a grudge against his elder brother, but after saying this sentence, he buried the grudge in his heart for decades. "Luonan, where are you? How have you been these past few years? When will you come back to help me? Now, the Five-Element sect is completely under my control. In the beginning, I taught you a lesson because I was afraid that Master would be wary of me. But now, I have the final say." It turned out that He Luonan's elder brother was actually ancestor Xianqin of the Five-Element sect. Back then, because He Luonan was young, he relied on the fact that his elder brother was ancestor Xianqin, so he said some pretentious words. Ancestor Xianqin usually doted on his younger brother. However, Ancestor Xianqin was afraid that his younger brother's words would cause Master to be afraid, so he taught He Luonan a lesson. Unexpectedly, He Luonan left the sect and disappeared. Because He Luonan was only an in-name disciple of the Five-Element sect and not a direct disciple, he was not very important. Ancestor Xianqin's master did not send anyone to look for him. Because of the sect rules, Ancestor Xianqin could not search for him. This matter could only be left unsettled. Many years later, Ancestor Xianqin took charge of the Five-Element sect. Although he secretly inquired about He Luonan's whereabouts, there was no more news, which made Ancestor Xianqin very regretful. As he grew older, Ancestor Xianqin also gave up looking for He Luonan. After all, he did not believe that He Luonan could cultivate very well. After so many years, He Luonan might have already passed away. After all, He Luonan was just a little playboy who relied on his elder brother's strength to run amok in the sect. He was not very interested in cultivation. But unexpectedly, He Luonan actually called. He was actually still alive. "Elder brother, I am overseas." "You know about the Overseas Cultivators Association," He Luonan said, choking with sobs. "I know. Are you a member there? Come back and help me. I know about the Overseas Cultivators Association. Although it is not small, it is still someone else's business." Ancestor Xianqin invited. "Elder brother, the Overseas Cultivators Association was founded by me." He Luonan smiled bitterly and said, "Is your younger brother that bad?" Elder brother can take charge of the 5-element sect, but I can't? What? The Overseas Cultivators Association is yours? Ancestor Xianqin was shocked after hearing this. Then, the Elder Chen who was killed by Lin Yi before was your subordinate? You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.